Come on now. All right, guys, we're back. This is part two or take two. We had a little technical difficulty at first, but I think we're good now. We're good to go. This is the Central and the Pacific preview. We got a lot of Lakers fans, part of the Unwrapped Sports Network, so we will be talking about the Lakers a lot. Just a fair warning. I am your host, Amber Vickers. Then I have my co-host, Andrew. He's one person to the right of me. So we're going to start with Caleb. Introduce yourself and plug in everything you need to plug in.
Yeah. I hate being in between the two, main directors of the hoop or assistant directors of the Hoops Network. But you know what? Yeah, that's me. Yeah. I'm a Florida State fan, both basketball and football as well. But this is a basketball show, so tonight we'll be focusing on one Florida State player that got drafted from one of these teams here in the Central Division there in the East. So I'm excited to talk about him. Other than that, I've got a podcast called Saturday Standouts that talks or live show as well with the Unwrapped Sports Network with one of our co-contributors there at Unwrapped Sports, and that's Sam Daring, and we talk about upcoming draft picks that are being looked at in terms of football and everything, and we're slowly starting to get into basketball, just trying to get a grasp on all of that and everything and see where we're going. But all that's great. And like I said, Tribaholics, a great FSU podcast, all FSU sports in terms of football, basketball. I mean, women's soccer, women's softball, women's basketball, which is also a huge thing when it comes to Florida State sports as well. We've talked a lot about that in our last live show and podcast tonight, actually about an hour ago. So tune into that as well. If you're not, listen to the podcast on Apple or wherever you get your, podcast.
Andrew Williams at Andrew_WA. I'm an assistant director for the Unwrapped Sports Network. Obviously we've done the preview show last time around. This is our second one, and I'm excited because we're kicking off the Laker back-to-back title train tonight. It's starting tonight, and we're driving it. Me and Caleb's driving this train to victory. I mean, I'm excited. You can catch me and Amber. We got a new show coming, Count the Bucket. You can catch me on various different sports shows. I'm a huge Kentucky fan, but we're not talking about Kentucky basketball right now because we're 1-3. Thoughts and prayers with that. So we're just transitioning on past that. We're going straight to the Lakers. I'm happy to be with you guys, man. Love talking hoops. Let's dive into it.
CJ James, host of the Garda podcast, cover everything NFL, NBA. Glad to be here on the second episode of the NBA panel. Sorry.
Alec Carr, you can find me at AlecTD Carr on Twitter. You can also follow me at 4th and 26 Sports on Twitter, where we put out a ton of Philadelphia content, but are also just general sports content as well, and also co-host of Fights Unwrapped. We have a Wednesday night show at 6 o'clock. You can catch us there, learn about MMA, learn about UFC. It's a great time.
All right, guys, you can find me on Twitter at simplyme_AV. It's right there on your screen. I do Ladies First, presented by Unwrapped Sports. I do that on Thursday nights at 7 Central. I also have the Step Back Sisterhood podcast. That's for Blue Wire. I am the director of the NBA department now. I got my co-director Andrew with me. We're going to have Count the Bucket. That's going to be a lively podcast, let me tell you. Yeah, Andrew and I are very lively personalities.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's going to be a fun podcast. Of course, all the Unwrapped Sports Network families invited to come on. I'm pretty sure that show will be dominated by the Lakers, but that's okay with me. I am open to that. I embrace the Laker love. I don't have a choice but to. They're just winning these days, and we have to, really recognize winning. Then I have a podcast with two guys. One lives in Japan, and one lives in Portland. It's called Thunder Coast to Coast. All right, now let's try this again. We're gonna try to pay some bills again, guys. We're gonna try this one more time. I have my Unwrapped Sports gear on. And Caleb's going to show his Unwrapped Sports gear. There it is. Yes. All right. If you want some of this gear, go to teespring.com/stores/unwrapped. Go get you some Unwrapped Sports gear. Also, if you like to gamble, tomorrow, Bets Unwrapped will be going live, and they can teach you how to gamble, make some money for the weekend. MyBookie.ag, use the code USN100 and double your first deposit. Sore achy muscles. It's getting cold outside, guys. You're not as young as you used to be. So rxhemp.com, use the code rxhemp/US10 to get USN, excuse me, get 10% off of your order. Rub that CBD cream on them achy muscles. I know I'm not as young as I used to be. So there you have it. Whew. All right, guys, we're gonna start. We're gonna kick this show off right. I promise you. We're gonna start with the Bulls in the Central Division in the East. How do you guys feel about the Chicago Bulls? I know that's a lot to say, but how do you guys feel about the Bulls this season? New coach, young team. We know that they drafted Pat Williams, number 4 overall. We know it was some controversy. Okay, there was some controversy. So how do you feel? We're going to start with you. How do you feel about the Bulls?
I think I like the Bulls. I think originally I was very skeptical in terms of when they fired what's his last name? Hoiberg.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what direction they were going in terms of, moving ahead in the young roster that they have. But they continued on the path that they were originally supposed to be on. And that's in hiring a head coach in terms of Billy Donovan, which in my opinion was a great hire as a head coach for a young roster in terms of development of a young roster. I mean, look what he did with your team, Amber, in OKC and the young roster that he had there. But not only that, you take him back to his time back in college when he had the Florida Gators, took him back-to-back national champions there in Gainesville with the Florida Gators. So, I mean, he is a proven commodity when it comes to being a young head coach who gets young players. Well, he's not necessarily a young head coach anymore, but I mean, that's what he's, precedented on, is being a young head coach who gets young players and is able to develop them into the players that they want to be or are supposed to be. And putting him into a team that just drafted a guy like Patrick Williams, I mean, that was after the fact, but putting him into a team already without a Patrick Williams type goes a long way in terms of being able to develop these players into who they're supposed to be. I mean, Satoransky can become a different player. I mean, he is an older guy, but he got to the league later. I mean, Otto Porter Jr. is still young. Kobe White, extremely young. Thaddeus Young, a little bit older. Still Denzel Valentine, like I said, young guy too. Lauri Markkanen, extremely young, and then I haven't even mentioned Zach LaVine, only 25 years old, not even hitting his prime yet until he's probably got 2 more years until he does. And then you add a guy like Patrick Williams, who is only 18, 19 years old now. I mean, youngest guy ever drafted or drafted that high, or second youngest guy ever drafted in that lottery system that has been presented by the NBA. And I know there's a lot of questions surrounding that pick. So I want to hear what you guys think in terms of, Patrick being taken at that level for the Bulls, because I don't necessarily want to get into it because I got my own thoughts based off of a Florida State fan. You guys know I'm going to go in one direction. But I want to hear what everybody else thinks in terms of, Patrick being taken for that young team.
At first, I'll be honest with you. When I'm watching the draft and that 4th pick pops up and it says Patrick Williams, I laughed. I mean, that was my first reaction. I was just like, well, that's a stretch. That's a very Bulls thing to do. But I will be honest with you. I've sat here and watched the complete preseason game between the Rockets and the Bulls, and I see it. Patrick Williams has talent, good mid-range shooter, versatile defender. It looks like the kid has skills. There's a lot of people talking about him in Chicago, how impressed they've been with him and how good that he's going to be. But I mean, and I'm sorry to anybody that's a Bulls fan out there, but I'm getting ready to just thrash this team because I feel really terrible about it. When I think of the Bulls right now and I look at the roster, I think of mediocrity. I look at those guys, and yes, Caleb, you are correct. All of those dudes are young, but they're you can have a bunch of young guys, but if they're all mediocre, I mean, they're just going to grow up to be older mediocre guys.
Well, do you honestly think they're just mediocre now, or they are promising prospects towards the future.
I mean, maybe Patrick Williams is, but like, do I think Kobe White's going to be an all-star? No. Do I think Lauri Markkanen's going to be an all-star? No. Do I think Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be an all-star? No. Zach LaVine's the only guy that I look at and I say, all right, he's the guy. Like, he's the guy that has the talent. But apparently, they're shopping Zach LaVine. A lot of people talk about maybe trading him. Amber, no slight here because it's all love. But when I look at Billy Donovan, I think he's the perfectly mediocre coach. I think Billy Donovan should be in college. I think that he's a better college coach than he is an NBA coach. And I think that he got really lucky his first couple of years there in Oklahoma City to have Durant and Westbrook. And then he did a good job last year. Don't get me wrong, with that squad. And I'm not trying to take any credit away from him, but they had a good leader in CP3. I think that they've got a perfectly mediocre coach with a perfectly mediocre roster. And I just don't I hate it because I want the Bulls to be good. The NBA is better when the Bulls are good. I say the same thing about the Knicks. We need Chicago to be good. But I look at this roster and I say, oh, everybody's like, yeah, well, they might be this in 5 years. What are they going to be in 5 years? The 7 seed in the East? Like, is that what they're going to be in 5 years? Or they're going to be the 6 seed? Because I look at this roster and I say, they're not 1 piece away from being a contender. They're not 2 pieces away from being a contender. They're about 3 pieces away from being a contender.
What you're not understanding, in my opinion, I'm just going to quickly insert here, is that Billy Donovan isn't supposed to be brought there to take them to a championship level, but instead make them just make the playoffs at that point.
I get it. I don't see the vision. Like for me, I just don't see the vision. If I'm Chicago, I don't really know where they go. I don't see it, and maybe you guys can talk me into it somehow. CJ, I'll pass it off to you. Talk me into the Bulls because I'm not feeling it.
Well, I'll start from the top. They definitely had to change up the front office, get rid of Foreman, get rid of Paxson. That was definitely necessary. They were there for so many years. Just haven't been able to get it done. Brought a new regime in. I think bringing a guy like Billy Donovan was the right coach. I mean, coming off so people were very surprised of how well he did with that Oklahoma City team. So bringing a guy like him with a younger team, Patrick Williams. I like Patrick Williams a lot. I think he improved, and from his time at Florida State to now, a lot of people have talked about this narrative of all these players have had about 9 months off to get ready, get right, work on their games, work on things they're not so great at. And it looks like he's had some time to work on that, and he's done a pretty good job. I saw a couple videos of his post-draft workout, going up against some quality NBA guys. So he looks good. He's still raw, but that's why you bring a guy like Billy Donovan in, coming from the college system, understanding how to coach young guys, what to do, and he can mold into they hope into a really special player. I like Zach LaVine. He has to take that next step in making his teammates around him a lot better. We know he can score. We know he's extremely athletic, but he's going to have to be, if he wants to be the leader of the team and carry the Bulls to higher heights, he's going to have to be able to, be that leader off the floor as well, and really, be a better playmaker. They have some solid young pieces. Markkanen's good. Wendell Carter has to develop inside the middle and be more of a rim protector, rebound the ball a little bit more. So they have some work to do. They're definitely in. I think you could say rebuilding, but it's kind of just a filling out process because, again, it's a new regime. So honestly, none of these players are really safe. They have to come out and really ball out and make it known to these guys, make it known to their front office that they can that they're able to be on the team long term. For Zach, if he starts to get distressed, he might ask for a trade and might want to go to a contender because he is a highly talented player. But I just think they have some quality pieces. It's just going to come down to how they play. Thaddeus Young's still there, quality veteran. Get some of those guys going. Give them really good advice on the league and teach them how to play defense, because that's what they have to do, play some defense. Jim Boylan last year, it was really rocky last year, but I think they have some structure. Yeah, it was.
That's also why I think they bring in a guy like Patrick Williams. That's why they drafted Patrick Williams so high up in the draft. Is not only does he have promising offense, but his defense is already solidified. his defensive position and the way he puts himself in front of defenders and he squares up against defenders is very above average for a 19-year-old player. And that's kind of what stands out to me in terms of being able to draft him so high in the way that Billy Donovan wants to build his type of young team. I mean, you also have Gafford, who's young. You also have Wendell Carter, who's only 21 years old. You have Ryan. I don't even want to say his last name, but he's a young guy who's backup point guard. I mean, all these guys are young, and you start building on the defensive end of the ball. And that starts with, somebody who comes out of a Leonard Hamilton, system there at Florida State who wasn't even starting. And that's the reason why I'm big on Patrick Williams is you don't necessarily need to bring him into the starting lineup immediately. You can easily put him there in the second unit or put him there even in the G League. I mean, look at, Kevin Gelly, who was a first-round draft pick by the Clippers, but ended up being in the G League for the whole rest of the season. And guess who played that second or third unit for the point guard position for the Clippers last year, and that was Terrence Mann. And he was a second round draft pick last year out of Florida State. So, I mean, it doesn't matter where you're drafted in the league. It's a matter of what you provide to the team. And I think what Patrick is going to be able to provide to this team is more of a defensive effort than an offensive effort. And he's going to grow in that offensive scheme that Billy's going to be able to provide him in terms of playmaking ability.
I think just me personally, I think the Bulls' biggest problem is that they have a bunch of pieces of contender teams. They don't have any true one piece that can take them to the next height. All their players are best suited on another team as a role player, as a piece. Zach LaVine would be a good third, maybe second option. Lauri Markkanen is that third, fourth option at best, right? And Billy Donovan, I think I like the hire. I think he's a good guy to bring in, but I think they're honestly going to spend the first half of the season evaluating their talent, seeing who they can trade, seeing who they can get value. I don't think Billy Donovan's taking this job with the current roster as it stands. I think he's taking the job with the GM and the front office telling them, we're gonna rebuild, we're gonna move who you want, and go and target who you want. But we got to take this first half.
So do you think it's more of a OKC type deal, Alec?
Along the lines, yeah. I think it's more of maybe not to the extent that OKC is doing, where they're more of the Sixers tank. Sorry, Amber. But they're more of along the lines of the Sixers tank. I think they're going to look at guys like moving Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's got a lot of value in this league, especially, his contract's not all that bad, especially for his age. Even a guy like Lauri Markkanen, who's a guy they might end up wanting to keep because they haven't really been able to evaluate him, but they could even move on like a guy from Lauri, a guy like I think they would try to keep Kobe White, but I don't think, like it was mentioned before, I don't think anybody on this team is safe. I think they could trade it anybody at any given moment, as long as the return is enough for them. I think this team is an entirely different looking team after the trade deadline.
Hey, CJ, I have a question. I have a question, and I'm being serious. I'm not being facetious. And I have my opinions. Okay, so I take things back to you because you're a Knicks guy, obviously, and we talked about that. We thought that the Knicks were going in the right direction. We said Leon Rose, that there's some smart people that are in that front office now. Next 10 years, what franchise are you taking to be more successful in the next 10 years? The Chicago Bulls, the New York Knicks. And I'm serious.
That's tough, man. Honestly, I mean, both of those teams really have a lot of work to do. I agree with Alec, though. I think this is really a talent evaluating season because, again, completely new front office, and honestly, the Knicks are in the same predicament. Most of these guys are young guys that were drafted, prospects. Leon Rose didn't draft these guys outside of Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. So, they're really playing for their status in New York. So, and you look at next year's draft class, supposed to be one of the best draft classes in a very long time. So a multitude of talent from 1 through 14. So they're really looking to see, okay, because you look at Chicago, they're a big city, but the way they've been built the past, even since when they had Jordan, they had D Rose, they've built through the draft. So they haven't been a team where they brought in a big time free agent and that big time free agent has carried them to higher heights. They're homegrown, bring their guys in, develop their guys slow and gradually. And then, eventually with the right guys, with the right coaches around that young star they bring in, what they draft, then they're able to develop and have success. So I think that's the direction they need to go in. Is it Levine? I mean, we'll see. Could be marketing as well, but it's definitely Donovan will definitely be there longer than some of those guys that are on the team for sure.
You know what? With the Bulls, I really want them to do well because I grew up watching the Bulls in the 90s. And when you were spoiled in the 90s, and then you go from that to just that drop off, and then they came back up. You got Derrick Rose there, young Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah was there. You had that young team that was there. They were almost there. Then Derrick Rose gets hurt. They tried again, almost there. Derrick Rose gets hurt again, and it just broke my heart because I want to see that young Bulls team be successful. Go ahead.
Do you think that's what they're trying to hit with Patrick Williams? Do you think they're trying to hit that lotto?
Yeah, but he's no Derrick Rose. But
yeah, he's not. But I mean, he's so young, and you don't really know what he's going to what's going to blossom out of that.
He just turned 19 in August, so super raw, so raw, man.
I have a question for you, Caleb. Do you think you could ever get back to maybe even that 2010s Bulls team? Maybe, possibly.
I mean,
that team was good, man.
I don't think you get back to that at this point. It's going to probably take another 10 years. Like it's not going to be easy. You're not going to have. Patrick Williams isn't going to be Derrick Rose, it's just not going to happen. Patrick Williams is not Derrick Rose. He's not a game changer. Yes, he can change a game with, one play in terms of, changing the momentum of a game, but he's not Derrick Rose where it's going to completely be, 3, 4, 5 possessions in a row where it's just going to be like, yeah, I'm taking over and it's game over after that. It's a completely different set of skill sets. And I mean, I might be wrong here saying that. And, Patrick Williams in 3 years might be able to do that, but he's not at that level yet. And maybe Billy D is the guy to get him there, but I don't see it. It's just a totally different skill set, a totally different, mannerism, a totally different, I just don't. I don't even know what else to put it. It's just different. It's not Patrick Williams. Ultimately, is not Derrick Rose, and he's not going to change your program, especially at a number 4 pick.
Yeah, in this draft, I said it before. It was a developmental draft for me. I think it's going to take time to see how this draft pans out. But we're moving on to another team, guys. Another young team. This division is very young. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers have been very lackluster, to say the least, since LeBron and Kyrie left. They got LeBron's number 1 overall pick. LeBron goes to Miami. They get another number 1 overall pick in Kyrie. And then LeBron comes back. And they win a chip. LeBron leaves. And they're back to the same old Cleveland Cavaliers. So do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers could take another step this year? I know DeAndre Drummond, he opted into his contract. So that's a positive. But what else does Cleveland have? They have some young players. What else does Cleveland have?
I think they're in the same position as Chicago a little bit. But the difference is their front office is, Dan Gilbert is, one of the worst owners in the NBA. Like you just talked about, you had, 2 guys, LeBron and Kyrie, and you weren't able to keep those guys in a small market, knowing when you're able to draft those quality of guys in a small market, you got to do everything you can to keep those guys, and wasn't able to do that. They have some solid guards, and then Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. I like that combo. I guess my guess is they want to have like a similar to Trailblazers with Dame and CJ, and maybe hope one of those guys could turn out to be a star quality guy. They drafted Isaac Okoro from Auburn. He's a solid defender, a solid wing guy who can make some plays. Really good wing. Kevin Porter Jr. is really talented as well. Nice lefty. He can finish around the rim. Extremely athletic and can shoot. So they're just like Chicago to me. They have a bunch of guys that are talented and are young. But it's just going to come down to one, coaching, how they're developed. Drummond is there. Kevin Love is there. Kevin Love will probably be on a contender by the trade deadline, for sure. One of these teams that may feel like they're one piece away from challenging for the championship, they're going to go after a guy like Kevin Love. He can still stretch the floor, play a little bit of inside, knock down free throws. So champion. So he's gonna be on the contending team. I don't see him staying on the Cavs one more year, even though he's making $30 million, which is a lot of money. Yeah,
a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It is. But one of these teams will take a flyer, and I think the Cavs really, maybe possibly Drummond as well. He's still valuable. He's always one of the top guys in rebounds in the league since he's been drafted. Can finish around the rim, block shots. Don't want him shooting that much. But he's disruptive in the middle, so he could be a valuable piece. Look at that front court. They just got rid of Tristan Thompson. He's on the Celtics now, so they're in that same rebuilding mode. Hopefully, one of these picks that they have is a hit, like how LeBron and Kyrie hit. Altman and Dan Gilbert are really praying for that, but. With that guy at owner, man, I just don't know what type of success they're going to have. They're going to have to get really lucky, but they're going to struggle and lose some games. It's talented though, but I don't see a lot of W's.
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I would go as far to say as you're going to probably see Larry Nance Jr. and JaVale McGee being their two starting big men by trade deadline. Because I think they might try out to see what happens at the beginning of the season, but I think they're going for that number one overall pick in this draft. Because I think CJ was the one that said it. This draft class is supposed to be really good. So I mean, I just don't know their path to even trying to be good this year. Yes, they have some young guys. Yes, I like Sexton and I like Garland. I don't know if they're a match, kind of like, I don't know if they match up like Lillard and McCollum exactly do. But we'll see. You might even see one of those guys move if the value's right. I think this is to continue what CJ said. I think this is exactly like what we said with the Bulls. No one's safe. No one's safe on this team. As long as they can get good value back, I think you see a trade.
I'm with you guys. What you said so far. I think that I first of all, CJ, you read my mind. I think both Drummond and Kevin Love are gone. I think that I think the Kevin Love contract may be a little bit harder to trade. The Drummond will be an expiring, and they're both though Andre Drummond's a rim protector. Kevin Love can stretch the floor. There may be a contender that comes knocking towards the trade deadline and says, "Hey, maybe who knows if it works out with Tristan Thompson? Maybe the Celtics kick the tires on Drummond. There's a lot of things that could possibly happen. I do like Darius Garland. I think Darius Garland's really skilled. I like his offensive game a lot. Great shooter, can handle the ball really well. I like Kevin Porter Jr., as you said, CJ. I think the Cavaliers have to kind of be under the assumption now, okay, we need to get assets. We need to start obtaining assets. And, maybe you take back a bad contract or something, but I don't trust, like you said, CJ, like if I'm the Cavaliers, I look and say, all right, who's my owners? Dan Gilbert. I'm feeling pretty bad about my direction that I'm going just because he's there. I mean, Dan Gilbert's had a lot of luck that's fell into his lap over his career, multiple number one draft picks. One of the greatest players of all time is born close to Cleveland. So he's had a lot of luck that's fallen in his lap. And I don't know what their direction is going forward. If I'm them, I try to trade Kevin Love and Andre Drummond, take back assets, get future picks, try to do what Sam Presti's done with the Thunder in some extent, and try to build for the future. But knowing the Cavaliers, they'll extend Kevin Love and Andre Drummond to multi-year max contracts, and they'll be paying Chetty Osman 4 years, $80 million at the end of the year. So that would be the ultimate Cavaliers thing to do. Wouldn't shock me a bit, and I think the Cavaliers are going to be bottom dwellers for the next several years.
Yeah, you exemplified everything everybody else has said, and I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, Dan Gilbert is an idiot. I'm not afraid to say it. I think he's an idiot. He just doesn't understand everything that's been laid in his lap, and doesn't understand that he can't do anything other than what's laid in his lap. Like everything is just put in his hands, and he can't do anything once those players are gone. I mean, LeBron gone, nothing. Kyrie gone, nothing. It's just nothing. And I mean, you look at this lineup, Andre Drummond, in my opinion, probably gone. Kevin Love probably gone. JaVale McGee, in my opinion, probably will be gone, because he's not going to – there's no reason for him to be there, because he can be on a contending team, as he has proven for the past 3 or 4 years. Larry Nance has also been proven to be a key piece to, he hasn't necessarily spaced the floor, but he's a very big rim guy, energy guy, somebody who can bring energy to a team. And he can bring energy to not necessarily, a title contending team, but, a middle tier team. So I think he's gone as well. Cedi Osman, I think, can provide a lot more than he has proven in Cleveland, and he did that early on in his career when LeBron and Kyrie and K Love were all there as well. And then you got, I mean, the young guys are obviously going to have to stay there, because they're on, very minimum contracts, and Colin Sexton and KPJ and everybody else like that, Garland, Exum, they're all so, and then you go and get Isaac Okaro, and he's another guy who's going to be on a lower end contract, and they're just building just a lot of young, guards, and I don't understand the direction they're going in, because ultimately they're going to end up getting rid of birds and centers, and I just don't know what Dan Gilbert is doing to this team, and I question it so hard. And I remember who said it earlier, but they said the Bulls are going to be the worst team in this division. There's no way. There's absolutely no way the Bulls are going to be the worst team in this division, with the Cleveland team who might get rid of half of their players that are worth a damn.
My question would be, how do you get a key free agent to come to Cleveland? Like, how do you get one piece to come to Cleveland?
You better hope they're born in the acronym.
You get lucky, you draft a superstar, and that makes people want to come there.
Is their name LeBron James?
No.
Retirement tour?
One thing we failed to mention so far is that Cleveland does bring back some championship experience with Matthew Dellavedova. So let's not look over the truth here, okay? Let's not look over championship experience.
I'm really trying to figure out what Cleveland's doing, and it's really hard for me to figure it out. I'm going to say that about a couple of teams, NBA teams in these previews, because I know what the Thunder are doing, right? I know what they're doing. I don't mean to brag on the Thunder, but I just know what they're doing. I might not be able to pronounce the names, but I know what they're doing. That's a start. But with Cleveland, I have no clue. Chicago, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to figure that out as well. I'm sorry, Caleb, but when they drafted Mr. Williams, I thought he'd probably go 10, 11, 12 maybe. They drafted him very high. I don't know who you would.
Right, I think he probably would have been better off where Vassell went with the Spurs. But
yeah, But hindsight's 2020. Now, this team just got someone from the Thunder. They got Troy Weaver. He made a lot of moves for Detroit. I tried to keep up with their moves on draft night. It was a lot. Let's talk about the Pistons. We got Blake Griffin there. We got Derrick Rose there. Do we see them there after the trade deadline? You lost Christian Wood to Houston. You got Jerian Grant. He didn't play very well today, but it's okay. You got Killian Hayes. You drafted Killian Hayes. What about this young, old Pistons team? How do we feel about Detroit?
First of all, I would like to say we have started off with the three most depressing teams that like, it's been like a funeral in here, man. Like we got to get past the Bulls, the Cavaliers, and the Pistons. Gee, like I'm depressed right now.
All right.
I know.
Yeah, it's just like, damn, like, what do we have to say? They're all young and shit. Like, there's nothing good to come from them. Like, what do we have to do?
Okay, so listen, as a team, we got to press through the Pistons. I mean, no offense.
We got two quality teams coming up. We
can just hang tight with us, people. We're gonna get past the Pistons, and then we're gonna start rolling. But I'll go ahead and start talking about the Pistons. I like Killian Hayes. I think Killian Hayes is a skilled player. I think that he can be a good piece for them. Kind of starting off, they drafted Isaiah Stewart at 16, big man from Washington that I like pretty well. They drafted Sadiq Bey, which I think is a pretty good piece. I actually think the Pistons had a fairly good draft. I like their draft pretty well. They signed Jeremy Grant in the offseason, who was a good piece for the Nuggets last year. He had a rough preseason game tonight. He's 1 for 11. He's counting that money, man. He ain't got time to play right now. He's counting that money. He got a big deal from the Pistons. But I think Jeremy Grant's a pretty nice young player. The thing that kind of confused me about the Pistons, you let Christian Wood walk to sign Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, and some of the, and I'm like, what are you like? You're gonna let Christian Wood, who I think is a rising young talent, to sign Mason Plumlee? I mean, come on, and the money would too, but still, yeah, they could have not signed Mason Plumlee and kept Christian Wood. I do think they trade D Rose. I honestly, I'll tell you a team that I think you watch out for in the D Rose sweepstakes is the Clippers. I think the Clippers need a point guard. They need somebody to initiate the offense, and I think that Derrick Rose would be great on that team. I could see them making that trade possibly later in the year. They got rid of Luke Kennard. Blake Griffin's kind of a hard contract to trade. That's a really big deal, and Blake's still skilled, but he's a lot of money owed at this point. I don't, like I said, we've said the theme has been so far, I don't know what these teams are doing. And with Detroit, I don't really know what they're doing. Maybe Killian Hayes develops into something, but I think we're going to be at this point when we have the 2021 Unwrapped Central preview next year. We're going to be sitting here having the exact same conversation about the Pistons again, and we'll be depressed, and we'll have to sit here and make it through the Bulls, Cavs, and Pistons. So there you go.
Oh man, this is interesting.
I'll take it. I don't know what else to say. I think the Jimmy Grant signing is great for them. Jimmy Grant is a baller. Defensively, offensively, has really shown his worth in these past 2 seasons, and he's only 26 years old. He's only going to grow. He's just now entering his prime, and we think he's been here for years. I do. I look at Jeremy Grant. I think he's a vet, just based off of his production on other teams and what he's been able to do. But he's only entering 26 years old. That Blake Griffin contract, you're not going to get rid of. Killian Hayes, great pickup. I think they're, a little bit ahead of these other teams that we're talking about in terms of what they're going to be able to get rid of, in terms of, bringing in Jello, and then being able to possibly get rid of Derrick Rose's contract later in his career, even after his injuries, and Mason Plumlee and Jahlil Okafor. Jahlil Okafor is still young. We only forget he's only 24 years old. Mason Plumlee's a little bit older at 30. And then you can be able to trade some of these contracts away and bring in some of these younger guys. And I think they're playing kind of a money game now. And that's my opinion in terms of the Pistons. I like the structure. it's going to work out to the best, but it's, a little mediocre team. But I think they're playing a money game, playing a little bit of money ball, like if you were to talk about baseball in the NBA.
I just gotta say, I feel bad for my Villanova guy, Steve Bay, who got kind of stuck in Detroit. I'm not optimistic for the Pistons at all. It feels like they got 1 foot in tank mode and 1 foot in let's see what we got and try to build around Blake Griffin still. Like half the front office still believes they can build a team around Blake Griffin, and the other half is like fire sale, get rid of everybody. So I don't really know what they're doing. They've made some really strange moves. Killian Hayes is, I guess, is a good draft pick. It's hard to evaluate this draft. I mean, to be honest with you, it was the least fun I've ever had evaluating draft prospects because I was just going through them, going, I don't know. It was the first time I looked at multiple prospects and went, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be. So I think to go off of Caleb and Andrew, I think we're looking at, again, players being traded halfway through the season. We get Derrick Rose. I like that idea. Derrick Rose to the Clippers sounds perfect. I don't know what team would bite at Blake Griffin. I don't know. Maybe a team like the Celtics halfway through the season say we need a true big and try to go after him. I don't know how they make that work. But that would piss me off as a Philadelphia fan for sure. But yeah, it's the Pistons are just, they're going to be bottom feeders and until they figure out, I think the biggest problem with the Pistons is they have no idea what they want to do. And until they figure that out, they're going to be not like number 1 overall pick, but like 5th to 10th pick, which is going to be really annoying for Pistons fans.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. It's gonna be a struggle year for sure for Detroit. Yeah, Killian Hayes was a really good pickup. Drafting a point guard. Have a guy like Rose kind of teach him the ropes right now. Still young, coming into the NBA. It's a great mentor to have. They have a wing, Sekou Demboya. I think he might be pretty solid if he's developed the right way. Got a guy like Dwayne Casey who's defensive oriented, so that might be something to look forward to. Him and Killian have a solid relationship, so that could be something they could be paired up for the future as he continues to get better. He had a pretty solid year last year for the Pistons. Blake, yeah, it's confusing for Blake because you look at these contending teams. It's like what most of these teams are really pretty much set. I mean, Celtics probably could use another front court guy, but how in terms of shots, what would that do with Brown and Tatum, and how much shots would that take away from their game as they develop, and his contract and his health on top of that. So those are a lot of factors when it comes to Blake. He's still a talented player when healthy, but it's just I don't know what contender would take him. I mean, it's not really any team that I'm looking at right now that they could like, okay, they need a guy like Blake Griffin to take them over the hump. So I think they're just gonna keep him for right now. And he's gonna get his stats. He might maybe be a bubble all-star guy just off the numbers. But it's just crazy. He went from Lob City and a big market in LA, and to now going to a smaller market in Detroit. And people kind of like forgot about him a little bit. He wasn't really able to carry the Pistons to a higher seed. I mean, they went to the playoffs a couple times, but only as like an 8th seed. So it's weird. It's weird. But I just think there, Troy Weaver, like Amber said, they brought in a new guy in the front office, and all these 3 teams we first talked about, all these 3 teams got in outside of the Cavs, just filling out what they have, filling out process. Jeremy Grant's a good pickup. He's good. He struggled today, but it's a preseason game, so it's not going to overreact over that. But could he be that wing next to Killian and Doumbouya that they could really build around, or he's just potentially might be back to the point where he might get traded to another contender and he's pretty solid. So even though it's $20 million, but he's still a really good quality player and still young and has some upside. So It's I don't know. They're gonna struggle again, and again, I think these teams are really looking forward to next year's class. I think they're all watching the college games and like just hoping and praying one of those guys fall to their team for sure. Because
CJ, I would bet $1,000 that we say that exact same sentence next year. Like these teams are all looking to next year.
Hopefully one of those
one
of those guys next year, they're a hit where you be like, okay, we got our guy, we could build around him at least. For most of these teams,
Cade Cunningham, somebody.
Cade Cunningham for sure, definitely. You got look at a guy like Jalen Green as well playing in the G League. We'll see how he plays. He could potentially be a top 2 pick, top 3 pick. So it's struggle for most of these teams in the division. Milwaukee, it's like the AFC East for Milwaukee when the Patriots were having their run. They got some easy W's coming in the season. Indiana too.
Yeah.
We're forgetting though. We're forgetting about the great Leandro Ball guy. He's going to save the team. We forgot.
I'm a fan. I don't know if he's going to make the team. Because like you said, because Sadiq Bey kind of does the same thing. Put the ball in the ground, great shooter. So.
He does it much better than Leandro does.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. So,
but a question: if you're the Pistons, wouldn't you? I mean, if I'm the Pistons, nobody's going to care about my games. Like nobody's coming to watch my games. Nobody cares about really anybody on that team. I sign Jello, and I make it an attraction. At least people will care. If I let LeVar Ball come down and just like talk pure crap all the time. Just like I'll say, LeVar, you have free reign to say whatever you want to. Like you literally come on the court during halftime. We'll hand you the mic. You just go. And I promise you, they would have 12 nationally televised games just because of that. When you're somebody like Detroit with the crappier rosters they have, just you got to have some type of novelty. I just signed Jello. I let LeVar do whatever he wants to. And you're never going to get a free agent that way, but at least people will care about you.
Yeah, at least you'll get fans in the stands, right? Fans in the stands, whenever that's going to happen. But CJ brought up a good point. Let's move on to this next team. The Indiana Pacers got a new coach. I have a hard time pronouncing his name, but we got a new coach there in Indiana. Victor Oladipo said he wants to be in Indiana after not saying he didn't want to be. I don't know what's going on with Victor Oladipo. I really don't. You got some great young talent there. So how do we feel about Indiana? Can they surprise people in the East this season? Also, side note, Braided Melo has now entered the game for the Blazers. I just want to put that out there. But go ahead. Go ahead,
guys. No. No. It's not gonna happen for the Pacers. They might make the playoffs. They'll probably be somewhere between 6 and 8, in my opinion, in the East. I don't think they're going to be as strong as they were last year. They're bringing it back. They're bringing back a lot of the pieces they did have. But I think this was kind of, a fluke year because a lot of the East teams didn't necessarily have the pieces that they wanted to necessarily make it to the point that they wanted to, if that makes sense. I understand that they're bringing back Sabonis. I know they got TJ Warren still. They got McDermott, they're a lethal shooter out there. They got Jeremy Lamb coming back. They got Holiday, or they got 2 Holiday brothers, whatever. But they're not the Holiday brother. And they still got Brogdon, who ultimately, in my opinion, is still overrated for what he's getting paid. Overrated for what he's getting paid. Not underrated. Excuse me. So, I mean, outside of that, you don't really have a lot going there for the Pacers, and you don't really know what you're going to get out of Oladipo coming in the next season. You didn't really know what you were going to get out of him coming this season, and ultimately pretty much missed all of it. So it's going to be a tough go around for the Pacers this year. They don't really have anybody to bail them out in terms of you can't rely on your low guys and Turner and Sabonis and Warren, because at some point one of them is probably going to get injured, or not injured seriously. Hopefully not injured seriously, but injured at some point to where they're going to drop, maybe combined, 15, 20 games combined. And then at that point, who's going to hold you up in terms of, you need three guys. Ultimately, if you're this type of team, you need three guys that are going to be able to perform. And if one or two of those guys are out, you're not going to be able to. And that's going to be their downfall. And I just don't think they have enough to be able to compete. And that's what it is. I'm going to go on a bold take here and going to say that Indiana does not make the playoffs this year.
I think that's possible, Caleb. They got into the bubble, and TJ Warren played really, really well for them. The high volume scorer. But then we saw when he got, because everybody was kind of looking at that 4-5 matchup, that Heat Pacers matchup, and they thought, yeah, man, this is going to be a battle. This is going to be a war. Didn't turn out to be, because TJ Warren, Jimmy Butler kind of shut.
Jimmy destroyed him. Jimmy absolutely took him to the coffee shop.
Pacers,
big face coffee, baby.
Yeah, the Pacers have some pieces that I'm at least starting to feel some mojo here. Like, I'm at least feeling better about the direction that we're going in this discussion. I like Sabonis. I think Sabonis is skilled. I think that he is somebody that they're going to have there for a while, and I like that piece. TJ Warren is a good scorer. The Holiday brothers are good basketball players. You've got them there. I think they're good. TJ McConnell is not a bad player. They drafted a guy last year, good rim protector, Goga Bitadze, and he's not bad. I think right now they have a Victor Oladipo and Miles Turner problem. I don't care what Victor Oladipo says. We all know that Victor Oladipo doesn't want to be in Indiana. We know that at this point. He's talked about how he wants to be at. Now all of a sudden it's, I want to be there. If I'm them, and there's a problem with Victor too, because we don't know how healthy he is. We don't know. There was a point before the injuries that Victor Oladipo was a budding superstar. We thought, this guy is a superstar. This guy has an opportunity to be multiple-time All-Star, maybe All-NBA guy. He's not shown that again since the injury. Now he's been injured. We don't know what that's going to look like. If I'm the Pacers, I want Victor to come back and play good the first part of the season. Then I'm sailing high on him. I want to trade him and get what I can out of that, because free agents are not going to come to Indiana. We know that. So they need to sell high on guys. Miles Turner is a guy that has potential, but he's never really demonstrated it to the highest regard there. I think that the Pacers are Pacers are never really going to be a contender unless they just develop naturally over a long period of time. So for them, I'm going to try to sell high on Victor Oladipo. I'm going to try to sell high on Miles Turner. I'll try to get some pieces around them and then grow over time. Caleb, I could see them not making the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, they're probably in that 6 to 8 range at best. They're not a contender. But if I am the Pacers, look at the division that we've just talked about. The Pacers are already the second best team in that division. So congratulations. Like, you should feel good about yourself, Indiana. You at least got that going for you. And that's better than you could say for the Cavaliers, the Pistons, or the Bulls. So, there's some things that they could do that they have the potential to do. Or they can just decide we're going to be a meddling playoff team. And it kind of is what it is.
Any other thoughts about the Pacers? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they remind me of pre-tank Sixers. They got a couple of solid players, like the Sixers had Drew Holiday, a young Evan Turner. I don't know if you would call him solid, but he was an all right player. But they got a couple of solid players. They don't have any stars unless Victor Oladipo comes back, like Caleb and Andrew says, in full swing and is the explosive athlete he used to be, and can knock down big shots like he used to be. I hope he does. I've always liked Victor Oladipo. I've always been a fan of him. I'm shocked Miles Turner's still on the roster, to be honest with you. I don't know why you're keeping Turner and Sabonis. I think we've seen enough from both of them to know which one you should keep, and it's Sabonis. It's not Turner. So I think it's time to move on from him. But they're the definition of mediocre. They're a team that's kind of strapped with trying to figure out which players are best. They're not in tank mode like those other teams we talked about, or they shouldn't. Maybe they should go into tank mode because, like it's been said, they're 6 to 8 seed at best if they make the playoffs. But I mean, I'm still holding out hope for Victor Oladipo. I don't think he gets traded. I don't think the Pacers make that move this year. I think I don't know if the front office is smart enough to make that move. Um, so we'll have to wait and see. But unfortunately, it's mediocrity for the Pacers another year.
And it might take a step back. I mean, you look at a team like Atlanta, who's got a multitude. They brought a multitude of new acquisitions, and they could be that team that could possibly usurp them in that top 8 range in the Eastern Conference. Look at their starting five. If healthy, I mean, it's really good. I mean, Brogdon, Oladipo, Warren, Sabonis, and Turner. To me, the problem is Turner, his aggressiveness offensively. Just looking at in the playoffs, he stands on he stands on the 3-point line way too much. And the thing for me about big guys is that you can stretch the floor, but you still have to use your size. And if everybody else is on the 3-point line and you're on the 3-point line, and they shoot, who's gonna get the rebound if you're out there too? So he needs to be more aggressive, kind of play with a mean streak. And that was some of the issues that some teams have had when he got drafted, when he came out of Texas. Some people had questions about his motor and how throughout the game, how aggressive will he be. Sabonis is a dog, man. Losing him was big. I think it would have definitely been a different series against Miami if he were there. I still would have picked Miami to win, but it probably would have been maybe 6, maybe 7 because they were still solid defensively. But they're in a weird spot. They're banking on Oladipo to be healthy. Like you guys said, get back to all-star form and really be that two-way player, that two-way guard that can really, step up and make plays for them. He said he wants to be a Pacer for life. I saw that Fat Joe Instagram Live interview, and he was talking with Fat Joe about, wanting to, be a Pacer for life. But, I mean, we've seen Paul George say that, we've seen so many people. We've seen Paul George say a whole bunch of things, and just like these players, it's natural. You're going to change your mind on things. That's just going to happen. So we'll see. I think if he does play well.
CJ, you don't want to talk about that PG-13 Applebee's meal that he had, and it was the best he ever had. So he's gonna stay in Houston or where? OKC. Excuse me, sorry, Amber.
Yeah, man, it's like you just don't know. I mean, a lot of these guys, they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna change their mind all the time. If he plays well and they're not winning, he could be a valuable piece. We've heard Lakers potentially trying to go at him, or like around the offseason a little bit. Even last year before the trade deadline, they were talking about, they might be able to look at him, but bringing a guy like Shorter in to kind of be that third scorer, I'm not sure if that's still available for them. So I think they might take a step back. I do like Cassius Stanley, a guy that they drafted from Duke. I don't think playing in Duke, he was really able to show his full talent. And I think being in the NBA with more spacing, with more players being more out, and he's able to show his talent, get down the court, drive to the basket, show his athleticism. So I think he could be a solid player for them if they do turn to start to rebuild. If he brings some quality minutes for them, he could be a player that they could build around. But their starting five is still good, so I think they're gonna win some games. But obviously, new head coach. What's the scheme? What are they gonna run? A lot of people thought Nate McMillan shouldn't have got fired. I think his time was up. He had a multitude of opportunities, even though those guys were injured, but you just could see like those guys really weren't playing for him. If you get some, for me, like when you get swept, to me, like that shows like, a lot of these guys feel like it's time. So I think they're going to be a middle of the pack team in the Eastern Conference. And we'll see what happens, but it's going to come down to Oladipo. He's going to have to play at like a superstar in order for them to really make some noise. And that's the biggest question.
Yeah, they're full of questions. They're full of questions. Also, is this next team full of questions? The Milwaukee Bucks. What is Giannis doing? Why is it taking him so long to sign his max extension? I have my personal reservations about it. I really have a theory that I don't think he wants to be in Milwaukee. I just don't. What can they bring to Milwaukee to get them over the hump? They're not the best team in the East. They got upset by Miami last year. I called it. They got upset. Well, I really wouldn't call it an upset, but they were number one seed in the East. They had the best record in the NBA last year, so we'll call it an upset. We'll call it what it is. In the second round, they put something around Giannis to make him say, "Okay, I want to be in Milwaukee for life." He hasn't publicly came out and said, "I want to be in Milwaukee for life." He hasn't said he wants to be a lifer in Milwaukee. I mean, as weird as that sounds, being a lifer in Milwaukee it sounds odd, but it is what it is.
That sounds depressing, is what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
it does.
And
But
you know what's crazy about all this is that
yes,
like they didn't do anything special. They
uh-uh.
don't have anything special that differentiates them from anybody else, in the
Exactly.
East, in my opinion. And they didn't. I look at their lineup right now and I'm like, okay, like there is nothing that excites me. And that's why I'm gonna keep this short and concise here when it comes to the Bucks. So it's nothing besides Giannis. It's Giannis and that's it. I mean, you got DJ. You made some moves, but what did you ultimately do? You thought you made some moves, but it didn't work out for you, and you ultimately didn't pull through those trades or whatever you thought you had, because those would have ultimately changed your whole team. I don't think it necessarily would have changed your position in terms of winning a championship, but it probably would have made you a lot better team in the East. But I mean, this is shut and dry to me. They're still not the best team in the East. Period. That's all I gotta say. I don't need to go any further into that.
I
So,
think
Andrew, you got that.
I think they did good with a couple of their moves. First of all, I think that getting Drew Holiday was a good move. I like that move a lot for them. He's a good guy, and Drew's underrated. Drew has been in New Orleans. He's a really good two-way player, really good defensive player. I think with Drew Holiday now, because I mean we
All
all
right, can I interrupt here? But is he worth what they gave up for him?
not well. I think it's relative because I feel like that they had to give it up. Like because if
Yeah,
they
they had to, but why are you willing as a team to be able to give up what you did to be able to go and get this guy who, yes, he's proven in New Orleans, but he's not necessarily the guy that's going to be your number two to Giannis.
yeah, but listen, I mean, if they don't do anything, Giannis is walking. I mean, simple.
Sorry to
You're good.
interrupt because I'm a huge Drew Holiday fan. The other thing with Drew Holiday is he's the most underappreciated player in basketball. I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, a point guard in the league. He's an excellent perimeter defender. He can put up buckets in spurts. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's this elite offensive player because he's not. But you don't need him to be. That's it. You got Giannis there. So I'll let Andrew continue and chime in later. But that Drew Holiday is a much better
Yeah,
player
I
than
agree with you, Alec, and I think two things can be true here. Number one, I think that they did give up too much for Drew Holiday, but number two, I think that they had to. Like I don't think that they had a choice because like if you don't do anything, Giannis is walking. I mean, I still think Giannis probably leaves, but I mean if they don't do anything, like he's gone because I mean Milwaukee, like Amber said, we ain't talking about being in LA. We're talking about being in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For like that's not the land of opportunities right there. We all have our thoughts on Chris Middleton. I'm not a huge Chris Middleton guy. You can go ahead and throw the 50, 40, 90 stuff at me, and that's fine and dandy. But I mean, I'm not a huge Chris Middleton guy, whatever. But so I think, and I'm with Alec here. I would go ahead and say Drew's now the second best player on that team. I think Drew Holiday is the second best player on that team. And Giannis is generational. Different ideas on Giannis, whatever. He's generational. So you add Drew to that mix. Now the Bucks was really close to pulling off what would have been an outstanding offseason. If the Bogdanovich thing doesn't fall through, I think we'd be looking at the Bucks.
Right. That's a huge difference in terms of their offseason.
If they would have pulled off the Bogdanovich thing, because there was reports coming out that Giannis recruited Bogdanovich himself. Like he was the guy that Giannis wanted.
I mean, if you look at the defense of pressure that, Holiday provides and the offense that he provides on top of that, and then you add in Bogdanovic, who's an amazing three-point shooter on top of Giannis's playmaking ability in terms of driving to the basket, and then he's also improving his three-point shot now. That's a totally different team. But once that Bogdanovic trade fell through, you have nobody out there to be able to space the floor, especially once you lose Wesley Matthews to the Lakers. That's a huge loss.
So I look at it and I think, man, if that had pulled off the Bogdanovic trade, I think they would have been the clear favorites in the East. As of right now, I still think that they're going to finish first in the East because they play in the worst division in the East. And they're going to rack up, out of 72 games, they're going to rack up 58 wins probably. And, they're going to be the number one seed. But then when it comes to playoff time, then it's a toss-up for them, man, because we saw the Heat play them. We saw the Raptors play them, before, and I don't think that they can do it. I think what's going to happen with this Bucks team is that I think Giannis is going to be there, and I think we're going to look back and there's going to be a story at 30 for 30 one day of how the Bogdanovic trade falling through was the beginning of the end, for Giannis in Milwaukee, and I could be wrong about that, but those are my thoughts.
It starts before then. I'm sorry. It starts before then. But yeah, you're right.
I don't think the Bucks are done. Personally, I think they've told. I think the reason Giannis hasn't said anything about signing Max or hasn't signed Max is because he's waiting to see what else they do for him. James Harden reportedly once added the Bucks to his list. I don't know how they make that trade happen. It's got to be any team that wants James Harden has to involve three other teams, it feels like, right now to get it done. So I don't know if that will happen, but I do think they'll bring in role players. I think they'll bring in shooters. They still got time to build around Giannis. The other issue that no one seems to want to talk about is building around Giannis is not easy. It's not an easy task. Only certain players fit Giannis. You need a team of catch and shoot players so Giannis can run the floor, act as a point, and act as a 5 or a 4 or 5 when he needs to. Grab those rebounds and get those assists. The team that's perfect for him, and I know nobody wants to hear this, is the Golden State Warriors. And Klay Thompsons don't just grow on trees. Like, you can't just go out and get a Klay Thompson, unfortunately, or a Steph Curry. So I don't know how the Bucks are going to build around him. So I think he is doomed to leave because there's just not much they can do other than get a poor man's Klay Thompson and a poor man's Steph Curry, who they can't because Steph Curry's already on the
Sixers. Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Like you guys said, they're gonna win a lot of games. They're still gonna be down in the Eastern Conference. Alec made a great point. They can only play one way, and that's because Giannis is still limited when it comes to being able to create his own shot. I think Budenholzer, what he has to do is give him a little bit more post-ups, use those mismatches, because the drive and kick. What would you say?
He's got to play center.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the best way. But I mean, he could probably still play the 4 because Brook is really a stretch 5, so he's not really a down low, getting the rebounds, which I think is a problem. Being that, again, like I said, being that tall, you're only averaging 5 rebounds. To me, that's just unacceptable. But Giannis they're not going to go anywhere until Giannis is able to be a guy where, late in the quarter, fourth quarter, the game is tight in the postseason. Can you go get me a bucket? And you're banking on Middleton and Holiday to be those shot creators. And any given night, it cannot. They're the other team that wants that. They prefer Middleton and Drew to be those guys. So he's going to have to improve his game. I think a team like Miami as well could be a really good fit for him. You have guys like Duncan Robinson.
Yeah,
Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. Obviously not the level of Golden State, but they can knock down shots, catch and shoot as well. So, and then Jimmy's a guy, selfless guy, loves is able to pass the ball. He could be kind of that point forward as well. So as Dragic gets older, and if they could get rid of his contract if it's time, and if Giannis really wants to go there. So I think he does leave, just because right now he's not at a point where he could be able to, again, create his own shot. You know, we've heard a lot of talk about who's better, Giannis or AD, and for me, I feel like that's the biggest difference. I know Giannis is gonna have the numbers, gonna have the stats, because the team is built around him to have those type of stats, be able to rebound, get the assists. But when it's crunch time, you know, to me right now, Giannis wouldn't have been able to make that type of shot against the Nuggets, and in Game 2 in the Western Conference Finals. He wouldn't have been able to do it. So that's the big difference. So I think right now, as he's still young, he's only 25, which is crazy. So he still has time to grow. 2 MVPs, already a Defensive Player of the Year award. So he's on his way, and I think Milwaukee, it's unfortunate. You know, they're gonna just have to, you know, possibly maybe just start over after they get him, maybe do a sign and trade or something like that, and try to get some pieces back. But I think going forward, I don't think he's going to be there in the long run, just for the simple fact that he's not ready yet as a quality shot creator, and that's what you need to win championships. You look at the last Finals MVPs: LeBron, KD, Kawhi. All of those guys could score off the dribble. He just can't do that yet.
I like the steps he's taking in his game, though. I like that he's trying to improve his shot. He's taking those 3-point shots, and he's trying to improve as a shooter. You can see it. And I kind of talked about this before with somebody, the difference between him and Ben Simmons. You know, Ben Simmons won't take those shots. He doesn't have the confidence to shoot those shots. But Giannis is like, okay, I've been working on it. I'm going to show you guys what I've been working on. I think he hit 5 threes against the Lakers, didn't he? Or something like that when they played the Lakers.
He had 4, I think. He had 4 threes.
Okay, he was shooting the ball. And that's going to be the next step up in his game, the development of his game, and also in the playoffs. He doesn't play very well in the playoffs.
That's something I kind of wanted to point out, is that, like, if he expands his game, but the thing is if he plays center, and that's where I consistently want him to play center, is because if he just lines up at center, he's pretty much Shaq evolved with a shot, is what Giannis is. Like, if Giannis gets that 3-point shot falling, he is Shaq with a shot. And if he surrounds himself with shooters and one Kobe, it's over. It's over. You give him one Kobe and shooters, it's game over if he plays that center position. And that's what scares me about him. But the thing is he won't accept that he needs to play the center position. And you know what? LeBron has accepted that he needs to play point guard, and that's not necessarily what LeBron wants to play, but he has accepted that role because he knows he can get everybody involved. Same thing with what we're seeing with AD now. AD doesn't want to play 5, but guess what? He's going to be playing because he needs the team to win, the 5. So there's the same thing that I see with Giannis. If Giannis can accept the fact that he needs to play the 5 and give the role over to somebody else who's going to play make, and then he can be averaging a triple-double as a center, he can change the game.
I just don't think he ever accepts that role. He's too. I think in his head, it's like
Ben. He'll never win. He'll never win, Alec. He'll never win if he doesn't accept that role.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. Unless he somehow lucks into Golden State play. But
when you have 3 other superstars on your team.
I don't know how that worked out, but I just don't think he will ever be ready to accept the role of a 5 or a 4 or whatever, because in his eyes he's the best point guard on the team, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not denying that.
And it's kind of like Ben Simmons too, where Ben Simmons and Amber brought up great points. Unfortunately, Ben Simmons is terrified to shoot the ball, but Ben Simmons should be a 3 or a 4, but he loves to pass the ball. He likes being unselfish, just like Giannis does, and because of that, they want to play the 1. Even though the only time they should be the distributor or the ball handler is when they're in transition. Other than that, you're right. He should absolutely be centered down low.
I think maybe that's why Drew could possibly be a solid move for them, because he could have the ball in his hands at times. So Giannis could go in the post. He could dump it down to him because, like you guys said, yeah, like I agree. Like he should play like Shaq. I mean, one or two dribbles in the low post and it's a poster, easy. So
I would be so scared. Not even like even as the Lakers, like as a Laker
yeah,
fan, I would be so scared of having Giannis at the 5 and not knowing what to do with him at the 5 with shooters and one or two dudes around him. Like I would
yeah,
not know what to do. What do you do? Like it's a
yeah,
different level from AD playing the 5 because Giannis can do whatever he wants to. AD can't necessarily do whatever he wants to. He's got 1-2 moves down low, and then outside of that, he's got to rely on somebody else. Giannis can do whatever he wants, and
yeah.
that's
They
what
have to,
scares
yeah,
me
they have
of
to mix
him
it up.
playing the 5. Is if he does end up playing that 5 position, which he should, then he will absolutely run the league.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, Budenholzer has to mix it up, man.
The only question I have with him playing the 5 is he loses his ISO ball, which he's so good at doing.
But he could still.
And
You think they get away from that because he can still run that.
I don't think they get away from it in all, but they would have to get away from it sometimes. And if he's down low all the time, I mean, I guess maybe as a Sixers fan, I'm thinking about this, but when they play the Sixers, he can't do whatever he wants against Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid doesn't let centers do whatever they want. And
Okay, but then you bring him. But then at that point, do you not bring Embiid outside and then beat him with your quickness?
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely ways to go around it.
He's such a complete player that you can't do anything against him.
Right. And I mean, you could switch players off of him. It's just hard. I guess it's maybe just hard me picturing a guy with that skill set. I see him more of being like but I'll just say he's a positionless player, and that's what we're getting at here. Is he could play down low, he could play ISO ball. The best way to play him though is, and like Caleb said, is to have him down low and bring the ball up sometimes, but have him primarily down low. And CJ brought up a great point. Let Drew run the point more often. Let him be the ball handler because he sees the floor better than most point guards do. Drew Holiday is a great floor general. And I think
the direction they're going in because I see a lot more guards and everything on their roster now. Do you think that's where they're aiming towards?
I think that now looking at it and thinking about it just literally right now, I think that's probably their mindset is we got to get the ball out of Giannis's hands for him to be the best player for our team. And maybe they see, even though he doesn't have other superstars, maybe we see this team like the championship Pistons team, even where maybe that's not a great idea, but they're surrounding one superstar. My point is they're surrounding one superstar with good players.
They're great, dude. They're great. If you look at it from the point that we're talking about right now, and Giannis playing with it, it's all guards and small forwards, power forwards that are shooters.
Right. So maybe that is their mindset is get him down low and let Drew run the point. Let these guards finally be guards and let Giannis be the big that he should be.
Yeah, because that formula of him, just driving to the paint, it's not going to work. We've seen it 2 years in a row. They're going to wall him up and they're going to pinch a little bit. And then as soon as he tries to kick it out, close out on the shooters. If he's in the post, that opens up the shooters even more for a better wide open window to catch and shoot. So, and that's exactly what Shaq did when they had guys like Fisher, Rick Fox. He would kick it out to those guys and they would spot up in the corner and knock down key big time shots. So they have the team, but he's gonna have to change his game a little bit. A guy like Budenholzer, coming from San Antonio, you would think he would know that. Playing, seeing Tim Duncan do it for so many years, and those they had the same thing. They had guys like Robert Horry, shooters and shooters that can knock down big time shots when it matters. As teams are because you're gonna have to double him. I mean, even though he's not a shooter, he could really change how the game is looked at. You know, a lot of people talk about it's a three man's league, which of course spacing matters. It's always mattered, but if he could be dominant in the post and just he doesn't even need he doesn't need to be Hakeem Olajuwon. He could just, again, a couple dribbles and just use his athleticism and get the mismatch after the pick and roll right into the basket. You know, get a calm post up, and it's a body, it's a poster every time. So he's going to have to change his mindset. If they start doing that in the regular season, into the playoffs, they're going to be scary because now they're multi-dimension and they don't just have one way to win.
All they took in the draft was defense and shoot. I mean, they took Diakite out of Virginia, who's defense, and they took Norwa, who is just a straight shooter.
That's all you need, yeah.
See, but like what I'm sitting here wondering with the Bucks is see, like we talked about the Sixers last time. I like what the Sixers did this offseason. They know that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they command a presence in the post. When Ben Simmons drives, great passer, he can kick out. So what do? They get Seth Curry, they get Danny Green. Dudes, and Danny Green couldn't hit anything last year. This is a good 3-point shooter. And so yeah, they put 3-point shooters around him. If I'm the Bucks, I mean, I feel like that's the direction I would have went in a little bit more. I would have leaned into that just a little bit more. I would have looked for. I mean, I'm sitting here watching this preseason game right now. Like, I'll tell you a player that I think the Bucks should try to get immediately is Buddy Hield. You know, Buddy Hield is a knockdown shooter. And you know, you could put him out there, you know, put Giannis in the post and then kick out to Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's going to be a 45% 3-point shooter. I mean, that dude's lights out, knocked down. And I felt like that the Bucks were a little bit too worried about. And Drew's a great player. I'm not trying to diminish Drew at all. But the Bucks are so worried. We got to get a second guy. Worry about the way you construct your roster. Worry about the players, the role players that you put around them. I think it's what the Lakers did such a good job last year, was putting those role players that fit with the top end talent. And so if I'm the Bucks now, I'm looking, all right, and I think Buddy Hield, like I said, I thought Buddy Hield would just be a perfect fit there with Giannis. They should lean in to try to get more shooters throughout the year and just make it to where, all right, we're going to put Giannis down in the post. We're going to play him at the 4 and at the 5 some. And if you try to double him, we're having a 50% 3-point shooter outside that's going to knock down a shot every time. And I ain't relying on Chris Middleton. Like I'm putting lights out shooters around Giannis and I'm letting him facilitate. And you know, that points per game might drop a little bit, but they'd be much more dangerous if they were to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, you know, they dropped the ball on one Sacramento King. I think they should go right back to the well and try to get a guy like Buddy Hield. Drew, Hield, Middleton, Giannis, and Lopez. That's a great starting 5 right there.
The issue is, how do you get Hield there? Because of the Drew trade. How do you get it? How do you get him there?
The Kings are low on Hield for some reason. So, like, you know, I would say if you offer the Kings like Dante DiVincenzo, just some dudes, like they would have taken that for Bogdanovich. So I would offer them the same package and try to get Hield.
I think that they're low on Hield, but I think they know his value because apparently what they've been asking for him has been, you know, pretty accurate to what you would ask for a player of his caliber. And you know, unfortunately, because the Sixers, the Bucks, and all the teams that need shooters are in the Hield sweepstakes. So my question would be, I would think that there's a team that's in the Hield sweepstakes that could offer a little bit more than the Bucks could. Now that being said, the Kings are known for kind of doing some pretty crappy trades in the past. One of them to the Sixers. But thank you so much for that. But they've been known for really, really bad moves. So that being said, maybe they just do take the first offer they think is a legitimate offer for him. But I think getting Hield there is difficult.
I mean, if you catch the Sacramento Kings in the right day, you might call them and be like, "Hey, man, listen, we got like a 2023 third rounder." And they don't even realize that there's not 3 rounds in the draft. They're just like 2023 third rounder, like, oh, we'll take it. Like, we'll take it for Buddy Hield. You catch the Kings in the right move, and you may flip just some random dude for Buddy Hield, and they're cool with it.
Hey, you just want to look at them the right way and be like,
This shit Steve on some Russian vodka. I'm sure that's how they get trades done.
Just give them the wink and the gun, and you're good to go. That's the seal of approval right there. The wink and the gun. Just you're good to go. All right, guys, moving on. That is the Central. I'm sorry, guys. It's a little depressing talking about the Central.
Thank God, man.
It's a little depressing talking about the Central.
Who knew we could talk about such shitty teams for so long?
I know, guys. We're moving on. And CJ made this point. A lot of people think it might happen. This is the first team we're going to talk about in the Pacific, the Golden State Warriors.
That's your team, baby, isn't it, CJ? Isn't that your team, CJ?
You like Golden State, don't you?
Nah,
That's Jerome's team. That's Jerome.
That's your team, CJ.
That's not my squad, man.
The Knicks fan. We talked about the Knicks. We let him have all his frustration out.
All right, then damn. I'll talk about Golden State then.
But Golden State, for me, I think.
Yeah, go Amber. All you, baby.
Oh, okay. But this is just what I think, and I'll let you guys take over. You know, I'm just the host.
I
think that they're going to be better than what we think. I'm just worried about their bench. I'm worried about their bench. That concerns me because they've always had a pretty solid bench when they went on their runs. Their bench was pretty solid. It was solid, and it got the job done. You know, they had vets on their bench, understood their roles. You can kind of stagger Clay and Steph's minutes, and it worked. It just worked. Now they have a young bench. They have a young team mixed with some older players. My favorite guy on their team, I'm just going to say it right now, is Eric Pascal. I love him. I love him. I love him. But I want to know how you guys feel about Golden State. What does Steve Kerr do? Will Wiggins step up this year? That is a huge question, guys. Will Andrew Wiggins step up this year?
No.
Yes.
I was super high on the Warriors before the Klay Thompson injury. I was ready to ride that train. I was ready to go. Warriors are going to beat the Lakers, and they're going back to the finals. They're on a mission to get back to prove that it wasn't just KD. And then all of a sudden, you open up Facebook the one day, and you see the Klay Thompson injury. And it's got to gut the entire team because they were feeling that way going into this season. That we got a chip on our shoulder. We're on a mission to prove it's not just KD. And then Klay gets hurt. I still think they're going to be a really good team. I like that. I mean, getting James Wiseman, it gives them a player they've never had with Stephen Curry in a true big, a big that is actually good at many things other than just being a body, and a big that he does need to develop, but he's on the perfect situation because all he needs to do for right now is rebound and kick the ball out and run the floor, which he's really, really good at, especially for a guy of his size. I love the Kelly Oubre pickup, but unfortunately, without Klay, they're a good team. They're not a great team. Andrew Wiggins is not going to have his come up year. He is exactly the player he has been. I don't know what happened to him. I remember the winless for Wiggins seasons. And I'm glad if he got
Is that ever just there laughing?
But yeah, he just never developed, and I would actually say he regressed since his rookie season. I mean, he's not as good as a defender as he was his rookie season. He's a little bit better of a shooter, I guess, maybe, but it's just I don't think he's going to be on the team by the trade deadline. I think they're going to try to dump him somewhere else. That's why they went and got a guy like Oubre. So I do love Eric Pascal again, another Nova guy. Let's go. He played really, really well last year, obviously. Even got some Rookie of the Year mentions because of how well he played. So I'd like the dynamic of him coming off the bench and for Draymond Green and playing with Wiseman. I think that's a good matchup. But this team is it's on the back of Steph Curry, and he's gonna have to, maybe hit 600 threes this year instead of 400 and break his own and break his own record again. And if they want to get to where they think they can, it's unfortunate.
I laugh a lot. I'm gonna say this, Caleb. I laugh a lot about the Warriors and Wiggins, because not necessarily the Warriors, but Wiggins, because we've been waiting. Like, we've been like, okay, Mr. Wiggins, okay. I was like that with Brandon Ingram too, until LeBron hurt his groin and he stepped up. He went to New Orleans and he really stepped up. That change of scenery. But now Wiggins has a change of scenery, right? He's in a system that anybody can play in that system. I mean, you can plug players in that system. If they buy in, you fit. You know what I mean? You can fit in that system if you buy in, but you're going to have to work a little harder. And I just don't like his motor. I just don't like it at all. It's just so disheartening to watch. So disheartening to watch. Go ahead, Caleb. It's just disheartening.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. You watch Andrew Wiggins play, and it's like, do you even want to be here? I mean, that's kind of the question that, like, I ask when I watch Andrew Wiggins play, and I don't know if that's kind of what you're hinting at, Amber, or not. But like, it's like, are you really trying to be an NBA player, or do you really give a shit to even be an NBA player? Like, I'm sorry for my language, but like, do you really care to give a shit to be an NBA player? And like, you haven't shown it to me that you do. And the fact that, Golden State is going after somebody like Kelly Oubre, who has shown that he gives a shit to be an NBA player and, prove himself wrong from where he started in his career, really tells you a lot about, the direction that Golden State is trying to go in. And I think that they are kind of going to be, a middling team in the West. I don't necessarily think they're not going to make the playoffs. I think they do make the playoffs still, even without, Clay there. I think with Clay there, they probably contend for the 1 or 2 spot with the Lakers, especially if they pick up Kelly Oubre and can shed Andrew Wiggins' contract. Because can you imagine that's half of what you're paying Andrew Wiggins for probably a better player in Kelly Oubre, who can do much more in terms of a wing player. And in just my opinion, Kelly Oubre is 10 times the player that Andrew Wiggins is in terms of a wing, and he is half the salary contract that you're paying him. And it's just incredible that they're still paying Wiggins to do this, albeit he is only 25. So let's not give up on Wiggins yet, okay? He is a young guy. So this is somewhere where you can see that Wiggins, once upon a time, was the youngest player ever drafted into the NBA. We remember that, right? If you guys remember back, 6 years ago when he was 19 years old, just a little bit older than what Patrick Williams is now. He was young, he was raw, and he was thrust into a position that he wasn't familiar with because he wasn't ready for it. Okay. And now he's into a position where he doesn't have to be the guy. And ultimately, if Klay Thompson was, healthy this year and didn't have this injury, he would have been probably maybe the 4th guy on the roster behind Draymond Green. And so he wasn't, under the pressure to be able to contribute to the point that what he was when he first entered the league. So ultimately, we can put all this pressure on Andrew Wiggins all we want to, and you know what? It's very, acknowledged, because we all acknowledge it, because he's not worth it at this point. He's not worth $30 million based off of his play with the teams that he's been with, or the team that he has been with. But when he comes to a team where he's the 4th guy on the team, and ultimately that contract can go down based off of his level on the team, then he can become that player that he once was and earn it back. I mean, it's hard to explain, but there are those guys out there that can do that. And Andrew Wiggins is one of those guys I believe still has the talent to be able to do it. He's still so young. He's only 25 years old. So That's why I still see Golden State being, a middling team, because Andrew Wiggins can still be that guy. And he can even be more of that guy this year with Clay getting hurt.
I would just say the one thing I have to say is to interrupt is that about Wiggins is that the one knock coming out on him in the draft wasn't, it wasn't just about his shooting. That people thought it was his work ethic, that he didn't care enough. He didn't have the heart to make it in the NBA.
But what do you think when he's surrounded by these guys like Draymond Green and Stephen Curry and Kent Bazemore? What do you think his mentality is going to be like?
I was just going to say, and it's not even the players, it's the coach. If anybody can get to him, it's Kerr. The people forget that, yes, the Warriors has had amazing talent, amazing talent. But Steve Kerr is a fantastic coach, and that he's really, really good at getting players to play for him. I mean, it's not easy to get players of the caliber of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and then bring in KD on top of that and have them all commingle. We've seen stuff like that happen all the time, and it blows up the team. Like Lakers fans, Dwight Howard going to the Lakers. That was supposed to be amazing the first time, not the second time, obviously. And it was awful. It was terrible. And that was because they didn't have the right coach at the time. Steve Kerr, if anybody can get to Wiggins, it's Steve Kerr. I just don't think anybody can get to Wiggins. I felt that about him coming into his draft. I just don't think he has the heart or the passion for basketball. That's just what I see. I see a guy that's lazy, and all the stuff coming out about the Jimmy Butler stuff was hilarious, but it also speaks to the truth. And he was talking about Karl-Anthony Towns, but he was mainly talking about Wiggins and questioning Wiggins' heart. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Jimmy's obviously never confirmed that, and I haven't talked to him about it, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm still high on Golden State. You guys make great points about Wiggins. Does have a lot to prove. Maybe this trade, getting traded to Golden State, will definitely shift his mindset and understand. Went from being a guy where he was supposed to be the guy, and then now he's one of the guys on a really good team. I think he fits the team well. He's not a great shooter. He's a really good slasher. He has to develop. He has to continue to improve as a wing defender. Him and Oubre have to. It's really going to come down to those two guys at the wing to be able to defend and make some quality shots. I still like their team. I think Kelly Oubre was a great pickup to replace losing a guy like Clay. He's really young. He could shoot it, lefty. Solid defender as well. So I think Curry. I have Curry as one of my top 5 MVP candidates this year. I think we're going to see MVP Curry of before KD got there, and just him playing crazy. You got a guy like Wiseman, like you guys talked about, a big guy able to set some solid screens. So if that guard goes under that screen, it's going up, and 10 times out of 10 is going to go in because of Steph. So and that's going to open up more opportunities for Wiseman, really, and he's just going to continue to develop as a player. I think he might be their second leading scorer on the team, just because of the type of opportunities he's going to get. And like you guys said, this is the first time they've had a true big, a versatile big, and that's just not just a guy like a Bogut, like a McGee. He could just do a couple things. He could do everything. He could shoot, he could defend, and he could do those. He could do the little things like you guys talked about, like those other bigs that come in and out of that organization over the last 5 years. So I think he's special to me. I mean, he only played 3 games in Memphis. I think had he played if he played throughout his college season in Memphis and that eligibility didn't happen, he probably would have been the number 1 pick. And Minnesota would have probably had to move that pick, and it would have been a little different. So I think they got a steal and getting a guy like Wiseman. You could build around him as Curry and as Curry starts to get older in his career. So I think it was a good move. Draymond's still going to be Draymond, utility guy, always going to be up there for Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Their bench is young. It's not like what it used to be when they had Barbosa and those guys when they were winning when they won that first championship. But picking up a guy like Nico Mannion from Arizona, a solid young point guard who was really good in high school, had a okay freshman season. I think playing under Steph, that's going to help him tremendously. They had a guy like Jordan Poole coming back from Michigan, a really good shooter. Kent Bazemore coming back, really good defender. He's developed his shot as well. So I think they're going to be right there in the Western Conference. We know the Western Conference is extremely tough, but they're still one of those top teams. I think it's who's going to be that second guy after Curry that's going to be dependable, because we saw Clay do that for so long and put up points and be that hot guy. Is it going to be one guy? Could it be one guy any other night? Is there just going to be a set in stone, consistent guy? To me, I think it's going to be Wiseman. I think he's going to have a really instant impact early for the team, just because of the amount of spacing that Golden State has. And Kerr knows all about big men as well. Being in Phoenix, playing with the guy, being at GM when they had Amari Stoudemire. So I think they're going to be. I think they're still going to be really good. I still have them as a top 5 team in the Western Conference for sure. They're just not going to be a easy out. And like I said, I think Wiggins, this is do or die, because now, since you're not the guy, now teams are looking at, can you be a valuable piece on a winning team? And if he's able to do that and have an impact, then that I think that money his play will match the money, and he'll be a more valuable player when it comes down to other teams potentially may looking at him down the road if he doesn't stay in Golden State.
I feel like we're throwing dirt on the Warriors' grave way too quickly. I really do. Like I've got a couple things that I feel pretty strongly about. The first thing being, I think Golden State will finish in the top 4 in the Western Conference. The second thing that I believe 100%, I believe that the Golden State Warriors are going to play the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That's my pick. I believe it, because here's the deal, man, and we've watched it in the NBA. Systems, when there is a system in place, systems translate year after year after year. Watch what the Spurs have done. They developed and created a system that lasted for such a long time. Steve Kerr is a Greg Popovich disciple. Steve Kerr, you go back to the 2015 Warriors. In my opinion, the 2015 Warriors, that was before, that was the first year they won a title. That's one of the most fun teams in the history of the NBA. And I'm a LeBron guy, so I hated watching them win. But I mean, that system, they move the ball really well. They shoot the ball really well. That system is built to last and survive. And I still believe that the Warriors are going to be really, really good this year. Steph Curry's going to have something to prove. There's a lot of people talking slick about Steph Curry, saying, that they forgot how good Steph was. Listen, I know that Andre Iguodala won that Finals MVP that year. We all know that was Steph's Finals MVP, man. Like we all know that. Steph Curry is a unanimous MVP. He's one of the best players in the league. It wouldn't shock me if he's top 2 or 3 in MVP voting this year. Another thing I want to throw at you, I know the sample size is small. Andrew Wiggins had the highest PER of his career in the games with Golden State last year. 17.5 PER. That's better than he's ever done in his career. He's 25. Listen, I don't like Andrew Wiggins. He's a high usage guy that's not been great.
That's why me and CJ are both high on him.
Yeah.
We aren't, we're not bullish. We're just very optimistic towards what he can provide to this Golden State Warriors offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I think in that system, you give him a whole offseason in that system, you give him the chance this year to come back, he's going to have to step up now that Clay is out. I still think that we're throwing dirt on Draymond too quickly. People forget how good of a defender that Draymond is. Draymond can guard 1 through the 5. Draymond's one of the best. I really believe that. Draymond's one of the best defenders in the NBA. He can guard anybody. And they're going to throw out some lineups where Draymond's playing some small ball five for them. I just feel like they'll do a great job developing James Wiseman. They've got some pieces that they're bringing back. We've talked about Kelly Oubre, what kind of player he is. I just think that there's a lot of casual fans out there that forgot about the Warriors. And I'm not saying it's you guys. I'm saying there's casual NBA fans out there that forgot about the Warriors, and they're going to be surprised at the end of the year when they're saying, oh, yeah, the Warriors are still around. And, oh, yeah, the Warriors have a chance to go back to the Western Conference Finals. I think that they're going to be really good this year. I think with Clay, I'm with you, Caleb. If they had Clay, I'm worried as a Lakers fan. Like if they,
I am legitimately scared if they have Clay.
Yeah, like
with the roster that they have, I am legitimately scared as a Lakers fan.
That they would have been really good with Clay.
Because it's lower. It's lower depth versus guard depth. It's forward depth and center depth versus guard depth, and it's scary because what do? How do you stop it? Because neither team can stop either or. So it's just like, what do you do?
I just think that they're going to be a team this year, man. That's going to obviously they're going to score a lot of points. I think
they're going to score a lot of points either way.
I think James Wiseman is going to be a really good player for them, and I just think the Warriors are going to have a really solid year.
Yeah, I'm still pretty high on them too. I think they'll end up in a fifth or fourth seed. But the one thing I'm really worried about that we haven't mentioned yet is Steph's health.
Right?
Is he going to stay healthy? I mean, he's coming off another injury. This is a guy that had like 6 or 7 high ankle sprains early on in his career, which can come back to bite you later on in your career. Is he going to stay healthy? Can he finish the season? Can he play even 60 games? I know it's a shortened season, but can he play 60 games this season? Can he play 50? They have new resting rules too, so he's not going to be able to rest as much. That's the thing. If I'm a Warriors fan, the thing I'm most worried about isn't Wiggins, isn't any of the new guys. It's can Steph stay healthy.
Oh, that might be the biggest problem. Those rules might be the biggest problem for another team in this division.
Yeah, Golden State, I have them as a top 5 seed in the West this year. I really do, because I believe in Steph. I believe in Steve Kerr. I believe in that system. I want to see more from Andrew Wiggins. I posed this question on Twitter. I did. Who will be an all-star first? Andrew Wiggins or CJ McCollum? And because I've seen a lot of insiders high on Andrew Wiggins, like Andrew Wiggins is going to step up this season. It's kind of like he sees Kelly Oubre coming in, and he's like, okay, we got Kelly Oubre now. It's me now. Clay is out. So with Clay out, he should definitely be able to step up in that system. Now, it's hard to replace Clay. You cannot replace that. But what you can do is get yours. You can get yours with Clay out. You can create your own shot. Oubre can create his own shot. Steph can create his own shot. And Draymond's a setup guy. That's just how it works in that system. And Wiseman's going to do what he does, run the floor. I think Looney is still there. I don't know how healthy Looney is. He's going to run the floor. Pascal has expanded his range. I've been watching him in training camp and stuff like that. He's expanded his range. So I still like the Warriors. I really do. I just think if Clay was there, that'd probably be a top 2 or 3 seed in the West if Clay was there. But that drop off, I don't think it's going to be that bad because you got Oubre and you're hoping Wiggins will step up. Nick said the Warriors are Western Conference bound. I know in the chat you guys were like, the Warriors are going to the Western Conference Finals. I saw that in the chat. That's very possible. That's very, very possible because I think Steph and Draymond are on a mission. I really do. I think Steph and Draymond are a little angry about how people are just counting them out because Clay is gone. You cannot replace Klay Thompson. You just can't. But what you can do is get the most out of those young guys that you do have. And the one thing that we did not mention is last year with Steph and Draymond kind of in and out the lineup, those young guys got experience and were able to step up and play big minutes for Golden State. I think that's the one thing that's very, very important to look out for because that matters. They've played in NBA games and they've seen the NBA realm and they understand how Kerr's system works. This is year 2 in Kerr's system. They were running a lot more fluid. You got your catalyst back. You are missing Clay, but you got your catalyst back, and you got the guys that are ready to work. And I'm very interested and eager to see how this team plays. Now, this next team that we're going to talk about, they're a team from LA. They're just little brother, the Clippers.
Oh, come on. Come on.
No. Come on.
Come on. Come on.
They are the Clippers. They are little brother to the Lakers. And I say that because it is what it is. They are getting a new arena in Inglewood in 2025, I believe. So that's good. Their owner has a lot of money. That's good. They just paid Paul George a lot of money. We don't know how we feel about that. How do you guys feel about the Clippers and the new Ty Lue regime?
Great, Kevin. You start first. I know you're wanting to. Go ahead.
You want me to tell you how I really feel?
Yeah, it's a safe space. I mean, go ahead. You have the floor. You have the floor.
It's a safe space, but I got some words. I got some words.
That's fine. Oh, that's fine.
Be ready, Clippers fans, to be a 7th seed in the West because the boys are coming for you. Boys are coming for you.
All your Clippers fans just unfollowed you on Twitter. So
that's fine. That's fine. They can unfollow me all they want. You know what? My boys play for them. You know, I got Kabengele, I got Mfiondu on the team. I got Terrence Mann on the team. You know what? Those my Knowles. But Clipper fans, I'm sorry. Y'all are done for. Y'all are done for. Y'all I'm just gonna address what happened today. Y'all signed. Was it today? Right. It was today, right? That this signing went down. Am I right? This was today.
It's the Paul George extension?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. First off, you want to secure yourself once you move into a new arena with a max player. And you sign Paul fucking George? Because you're scared Kawhi's going to leave your ass. Because you're scared Kawhi's going to leave you. After you brought him here, after you brought him to LA to win you a championship, you're going to sign PG 13th worst player in the league. That's what you're going to do, Balmer. That's what you're going to do. Good God. I have nothing else to say. That's it. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I've got a lot of thoughts. First of all, I need to begin by saying that tonight the Clippers play the Lakers in a preseason game, and in that game the Clippers started their regular starters: Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Pat Beverly, whom I hate more than any NBA player in the entire league. Now that Joakim Noah has retired and went on to greener pastures in life, they started Nick Batum and they started Serge Ibaka. As of right now, the Lakers started their bench unit. Right, the second guys, they're not playing with the best player in the world, LeBron James, the second best player in the world, Anthony Davis, right now. And right now, with 10 minutes and 32 seconds left in the fourth quarter, the Clippers are winning by 2. The Lakers are giving a majority of their minutes to Kyle Kuzma and some of the bench guys, and the Clippers are winning by 2. Here's my problem with the daggone Clippers, and here's what I hated all year about them. Okay, first of all, Nick says, "Wow, yeah, Nick knows what's up." So first of all, here's the deal. All right, Pat Beverly talked so much last year going into the season. He talks, and this dude, I can't stand Pat Beverly. I watched him earlier tonight. He pulled a PG in honor of PG. Pat Beverly hit the side of the backboard on a 3 in Staples, just in memoriam of PG's wonderful hit the side of the backboard last year. Pat Beverly talked all year. Oh, we're winning the title. All the Lakers don't. All this, that, and the other. You seen what happened? The Clippers. Listen. I like Serge Ibaka. I think that's a good pickup for them. I don't mind Luke Kennard. I think Luke Kennard's a good young shooter. he'll help them out a little bit. Here's the Clippers are still not going to make the Western Conference Finals, and here's why. They don't have a leader. Kawhi Leonard's not a leader. Kawhi Leonard is an amazing player, one of the best two-way players in the league, probably a top 25 guy in the history of the game. Kawhi Leonard is not a leader. You read every story that came out of that locker room last year. They didn't have a leader. Marcus Morris tried to come in and be the leader. Pat Beverly yapping all the time. Paul George trying to give inspired speeches when this man's going 3 for 10 in Game 7, and he's up trying to say we're in the driver's seat and all this stuff. The Clippers do not have a leader in that locker room, and they're talented. Don't get me wrong; the Clippers are supremely talented. But when you get to the playoffs, you got to have a structure. You got to have a leader that when times get tough, that they can lead your team to victory and to get over those humps. And you saw it. You saw that they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, and you saw around the sidelines what was happening. Kawhi was sitting there, silent as can be. When they needed somebody to step up and be vocal, he wasn't. And I think that they're going to fall to the same fate again this year. I don't think they're going to be the 7 seed. I think Caleb got a little bit crazy. I don't think they're going to be the 7 seed. I honestly think that they'll probably be a top 3 seed. They'll be a 2 or 3 seed when the year is over. But I don't think that they make the Western Conference Finals, and I think they underperform. I'd be honest with you, though, I think Kawhi comes back because I think that he's comfortable there. I think that he's comfortable in LA. It's close to his home. Apparently, they just let him do whatever he wants to, show up whenever he wants to, and I think that he's fine with that. And Ballmer's going to write that check. He's going to write a blank check for Kawhi to come back next year. But I don't think the Clippers have that. They need a point guard. Still, they don't have a point guard. Lou Williams is getting cooked barbecue chicken on defense, man. Like every time he comes in the game, I mean, it's easy. I think that. I do think that they're going to miss Montrezl Harrell a little bit, on offense with that second unit. And I just don't, I'm down on the Clippers, and obviously I'm biased, but I don't think they have leadership, and I think they flame out early in the playoffs again.
Well, I'm not biased, and I'm also down on the Clippers. I like you, Andrew. I don't think they'll be a 7 seed. I could see them if it really goes sour there, which it might. It's a very high possibility. I could see them being like 6, maybe 7th if that's what happens. But I don't see. I really think they're going to be top 3 seed still. They got the talent to be a top 3 seed. Kawhi Leonard is still one of the. No matter how much I don't like him anymore because of his attitude and he ran Doc pretty much out of LA because showing up we talked about it earlier, showing up to practice late whenever he felt like it, taking a private helicopter to catch the plane late so the whole team's just sitting there waiting for him on the plane for him to get there. So I don't think he leaves either. I think he's very comfortable there. I don't think the Clippers owners made it very clear that Kawhi can do whatever the hell he wants. And it's the reason why Doc left. I mean, it really is. Thank you, Clippers, for doing that. But it's literally why Doc left. I mean, Paul George even came out, and you never hear a player name their former coach and by name the way Paul George did and blamed him for everything, even though Doc came out afterwards and was like, Paul, we used you in pick and rolls, like we did all this stuff. Plus, Ty Lue was sitting right next to me. I don't think the offense is going to change that much. So, what you're looking for, I think the pairing of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard was a mistake to begin with. I didn't like it. I don't think it makes any sense to have 2 defensive-minded wings who kind of play in the same spots of the floor, which never ends up really working that well. And you could see they had to kind of stagger their minutes so they weren't playing on the floor together last year. It's just a weird team, and yeah, just like Andrew and Caleb said, I'm not high on the Clippers. I still think because Kawhi Leonard's just so good. I think they'll be a top 3 seed. But I mean, when it comes to playoff time, like you guys said, you need a leader. Kawhi's never been that leader. Even in Toronto, he wasn't the leader. You know, it was Kawhi. It was Kyle Lowry. So I mean, he's the guy that's just going to shut up and play. I mean, we've literally seen him on sidelines telling people not to talk to him. So it usually doesn't go over well with teammates. And it sounds like Luke wants out to begin with because he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play with Montrezl Harrell not there, his friend, and also Montrezl Harrell obviously wanted out because of Kawhi Leonard. So all of their role players, if they lose all their role players, it's over for them. They might not. I mean, I'll go even a little further than Caleb. If their role players force trades, like if Patrick Beverly wants out, if Lou Williams wants out, if you know Patterson, or I don't know, whoever it is, if they all force trades, they might not even make the playoffs.
Woo!
I don't see that happening. Because it would require all their players to request trades, which is just
they already all hate him. They already all hate him being there. So I don't see that being a problem with that comment there, Alan.
It's a ridiculous scenario the Clippers have put themselves into by giving Kawhi this freedom to do literally whatever he wants, and then surround him with guys who are, you know, put your lunch in a pail and go to work guys who are like they respect hardworking guys. Like Patrick Beverly, you know, he shows up to practice at 5 o'clock in the morning and leaves at 9 o'clock at night. You know, Lou. I mean,
well, it's not only that, but it's the guys they brought in the previous draft class. Like those two guys they brought in from Florida State, and Biondu, Kabengele, and Terrence Mann at a point guard position. They're both hardworking guys.
Yeah, so you surround these guys who are looking for a leader and a great player who has a strong work ethic, and then you get who you think Kawhi Leonard, who you think has a strong work ethic, to come in, and you let him do whatever he wants, and you pay him a shit ton of money, and then he does whatever he wants, and now you're shocked he's doing whatever he wants. So
and Alec, you made a really good point. You know, I'm sure that Pat Bev does show up at the training facility and stay there all day. That's probably why nobody wants to be around. Because if I had to be around Patrick Beverly all day, I wouldn't want to be there either. So I mean, I'm
Man, yeah, you guys are off. It's good. It's gonna be an interesting year. I think it's really gonna come down to Ty Lue for one. How is he able to manage the egos, like what Alec just talked about? You know, if these role players aren't buying in and their morale is completely different, you know, 20, 30 games into the season, you know, how is he going to be able to do that? I think he's dealt with something like that with LeBron and the Kyrie dynamic, and how just weird and awkward that ended up being, and how ugly it got at the end, even to this day, still being talked about. So it's going to be interesting. So how, you know, him being at the helm now, no longer being the assistant coach, the scheme is going to be similar. Just because Ty Lue learned a lot from Doc being with the Celtics. So I don't, you know, when Paul George came out and said he didn't want to be used like Ray Allen, it's like, I mean, it's like, what do you? I mean, that's what's wrong with that. I mean, I didn't see what the problem was. And then you look at the numbers, and he was like one of the top guys when it came to pick and roll and pick and pop in the league. So I don't know, man. And that's the thing for me. And it's they, like you guys said, they lack a floor general. That's their biggest problem. Losing not being able to sign Rondo was a big loss for him to go to Atlanta, and for them not to get him was a big time loss because they still don't have that guy. I think, you know, we talked about earlier with the Pistons, could potentially maybe get a guy like.
You think it's ultimately a voice on the floor for them because, you know, Kawhi has been known not to talk.
Right, exactly. You look at Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet back in Toronto. They were kind of the vocal guys, and then Kawhi could just do his thing, score, defend. Even in San Antonio, Tony Parker, Ginobili, he had some guys, some leaders, vocal guys ahead of him in that aspect, and then he could just kind of play his role. And it's a big role, obviously being one of the best players, but he's a kind of lead by example guy. He gets his stats, guard the best player, but when it comes to galvanizing the guys, and it's never gonna. And that's the biggest difference between him and LeBron, which was so crazy last year when people said Kawhi was better. It's just so many. Just because you won the championship doesn't mean you're that year doesn't make you the better player. So it just goes so many other things that fall into it. But for the Clippers, yeah, they need that. Signing Nicholas Batum, hopefully he can revitalize his career. He's been like a laughing stock for the last 5 or 6 years being in Charlotte. Collecting checks, but just not being able to. He's been overrated. He got definitely overpaid for sure. When he was on the Trailblazers, he was really good. He was a really solid role player. Really solid wing defender, can knock down shots. So if he's able to, if he's able to stay healthy and bring that type of impact to the Clippers, I think that's very important. If you see guys like Kawhi and PG come off the court, he can kind of fill that role a little bit, be a solid 3-and-D guy. Re-signing Marcus Morris, good. He's still a bucket. A rah-rah guy. I mean, he's vocal. Pat Beverly is vocal, but they're not close to. They're not the caliber of Kawhi and PG. So how much are they really listening to that?
Yeah, but I think a lot of those two are a lot of talk, but no dog. They act like they're dogs, but they're talk more than dog.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Alec, you're muted, baby.
Sorry, I unmuted myself. I was just saying, don't hate on my Philly guy in the Morris twins. All right, those guys got a lot of dog in them. I know people who are playing against them. They are no joke. They are hard nosed.
I got a Morris on my team. I ain't gonna say the Morris twins they got no dog. I'm just saying they got a lot of heart. They got a lot of heart.
The issue is that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard aren't going to listen to Patrick Beverly or Morris. So why would anybody else on the team?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm more likely to listen to Marcus Morris though than I am Patrick Beverly. Anybody on that team, like, why would you?
You're damn right though.
What has Patrick Beverly done in his career that anybody would want to listen to him except Bart? Like he hasn't done anything to be like a locker room leader. Like you don't bring Pat Beverly on your team like, oh yeah, man, now everybody wants to listen to Pat Beverly. Like, dude, the best thing the Clippers could do for their organization is get Patrick Beverly away from them. That dude is a cancer. Forget that. And don't say, oh, man, he's a lockdown defender. My man can't shoot. He's an offensive liability, and he just pisses everybody off. So when you play against him, you have dudes that literally want to go at him because they hate this dude.
And you're saying that right now. You're saying that right now, and there's nothing to go against it because the guys who really want to go at him are the guys who are pissed off at him. It's not the guys that are scared about him. There's a few guys in the league that are scared to go up against P-Bev, but there's a lot of guys out there that are like, you know what, F him, dude. Like,
I would say thanks, Alex. He's not even.
Yeah, dude. It's like it's honestly like if any single one of us went in there with confidence against Pat Bev, then we would be able to lock him down. That's what it seems like. But if you don't go against Pat Bev with any confidence, you're not going to be able to do anything against him.
Listen, and you're right. And I know it's ridiculous. We could lock down Pat Bev because all you got to do is just stand there. Like, he locks himself down. He can't do anything on offense. Like, you don't have to worry about locking him down. Like, what's he going to do? Like what's he going to do? So,
he is the epitome of all. He's all bark. I mean, he's soft. In reality, he's soft. He's the guy. He's the guy that's telling his best friend, "Hold me back, man. Hold me back." And his best friend's going, "I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to hold you back. Like, you're never going to get in a fight."
You guys are just so hard on the Clippers.
No,
He has a heart on the
it's
Clippers.
just the players they employ, Amber. It's the players they employ.
Listen. They did this to himself. They did this to themselves. They brought in a bunch of dudes. That listen. Kawhi, what was happening at the first of the year last year? Kawhi was making commercials. This is his city. They talked slick all off season last year.
Amber, it started with the whole "it's our city."
Yeah, this is what they get. This is you don't talk like that and then expect everybody to be easy on you when playoff P's hitting the side of the backboard in game 7. Like you don't talk all off season and then get to do that and not get slandered.
Yeah, he has to shake those nicknames, man. He has to.
the other issue with the Clippers is, you bring in this great player like Kawhi Leonard, and then you let him do whatever he wants. That's their biggest issue. Is that Ty Lue is not going to be able to beat Ty Lue if the ownership still lets Kawhi do whatever he wants. He's not going to be able to do what he could with LeBron and Kyrie. He just won't, because as long as he has a blank slate or whatever you want to call it to just, I don't feel like going to practice today, or I know you guys showed up at 8 o'clock to practice, but I'm going to come in around noon after I've had like a nice brunch in San Diego, and then I'm gonna get on my helicopter and fly to practice. Like Kawhi Leonard right now is and rest in peace, but is in the exact opposite of the Mamba mentality, and that's the problem with the Clippers.
Amen.
Ooh. Now, usually next we would go to the Lakers. We're gonna save them for last. We're gonna switch gears and we're gonna go to a team that people are kind of high on. They're high on. They got a guy from the Thunder in Chris Paul. I love Monty Williams.
Show Nick's comment.
Okay, Kawhi is the most spoiled player in the NBA. Yeah,
above LeBron, he is the most spoiled player in the NBA, and LeBron.
I think so.
And LeBron could be even more spoiled, but he gives a damn about winning.
Clippers are the Arrowhead of waters compared to the Lakers as Fiji.
It is hot. It is hot in the chat right now. All right, let's move on, Amber. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. It's all right. We're gonna move on to a team that could be hot. They play in a very warm climate. The Phoenix Suns. Guys, how are we feeling about Phoenix? I am very high on Phoenix. I think DeAndre Ayton's going to take a step up. I think Book and CP, that looks nice. That looks good. Monty Williams is a great coach. I like Monty Williams a lot. Phoenix has some things there. They have some things there. So how do you guys feel about Phoenix?
I guess I'll start this one. Oh, Alec, you want it?
Go ahead, Alec. Go ahead.
Alec. I don't care. I was just going to say Monty Williams, the Brett Brown disciple. I'm kidding. I like the Suns. I kind of like what they did. Bringing in Chris Paul, it's gonna work with him and Devin Booker. There's no, I don't have any questions about that. My question is, the only question I have about the Suns is why you're bringing in an old Chris Paul. I mean, I know you got to save Devin Booker and make sure he doesn't go anywhere. But are they really contenders? And didn't they just make their window? Didn't they just make their window smaller by bringing in Chris Paul? Because he doesn't have a lot of years left. He just doesn't, unfortunately. I mean, Chris Paul is one of the all-time greats in this league, but it just kind of baffled me for them to go ahead and want to do this.
But it's short term, though. It's not long term. It's going to be short term.
I know it's going to be short term, but my biggest question with bringing in Chris Paul, this is what I was getting to, is are they really contenders in the West? Are they true contenders?
They're not contenders, no.
Championship, or are they just going to be a first round out? Because if they're just going to be a first round out, don't you think Devin Booker still demands a trade?
Depends on who they play. Because the matchup,
right?
They match up against. They could make a run, but you're right.
So if they're first round out, wouldn't Devin? If I'm Devin Booker, I'm looking around. Chris Paul's only going to be here for 2 more. maximum 2 more years after this year, I'm bouncing. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to play for a team that can actually win a championship. Because once Chris Paul's gone, who are we going to get? So that's my question about the Suns.
I agree with you, Alec. I think in the offseason, and listen, the Suns made a big time move, and everybody's like, oh man, they got Chris Paul. Chris Paul's an awesome player. I love Chris Paul. I love his game. I'm with you. I think him and Devin Booker are going to fit together great. I think DeAndre Ayton will step up this year. We have to remember something though, that the Suns last year, it took like an 8-0 run for them to be even. It took an 8-0 run for them in the bubble, and they still didn't even make the playoff game. So the playing game. You're coming in and you're bringing Chris Paul in, and that's a great move. And everybody's like, oh well, they're a contender now. I'm with you, Alec. I still don't think they're a contender. Like at best, what do they do now? Are they a 6 to 8 seed team? Like that's what they are now. Now, would it shock me? Let me one more time slander the Clippers. Would it shock me if they got the 7 seed and beat the Clippers in the first round? No, it wouldn't, because it's the Clippers. So I just had to one more time. Sorry, I'm done now. Until later. But listen, the Suns, what they did, they did the thing that they had to do right now. It was the same thing. We gotta keep Booker. We have to keep Booker, and I'm with you guys. I think they'll have moderate success. They'll have moderate.
You seeing that?
Yeah, I got. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. They'll have moderate success this year. Booker, I think Booker is a dark horse MVP candidate. I think he can put up big stats. I think Ayton will step up a lot. But I still think they're in that 6 to 8 seed range, and I still don't think they're going further. And I still believe with my whole entire heart that within 5 years, Devin Booker's going to be on the New York Knicks.
No,
I don't know about
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about it.
Hey, Alec.
Who said? Who out there is saying I don't know about the Knicks?
Hey, Alec, go ahead and answer this question, Alex. What would you have to do to keep Booker long term?
I don't think you can do it, and this is not what Suns fans want to hear, and it's not what people who love Devin Booker on the Suns want to hear. I don't think there's nothing you can do. The only kind of star you were going to get was a guy like Chris Paul, who's long in the tooth and about to hang it up. They could have gone for a Russell Westbrook or somebody like that, but even then, they're still not contenders. So if I were the Suns, if I were a GM of the Suns, I would, or in the organization of the Suns, I would try to sell to them, we got to move on from Devin Booker now when he's had his highest value. And take all the assets we can for him and all the draft picks, because we got some strong draft classes coming up. We build around Ayton. We hopefully get another ball handler in the future.
I'm on the opposite end of that.
I just don't know how Phoenix holds on to Devin Booker.
Why don't you get rid of your mid? Why don't you get rid of your mid-level players? As in, Ayton is a mid-level player at $9,500,000, and then you get rid of Saric, who is at $9 million as well. And you bring in a bunch of young guys on top of Chris Paul, who's making $41 million, which is fine for the level he's playing at. Maybe give him a little bit of a break there and give him cut down his salary a bit, and then up Booker a bit, and then bring in a bunch of mid-level guys on top of that, on top of Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, who is proven that he's going to be improving as he goes. Cam Johnson, who is he's going to be a second year. I just don't see why you get rid of Chris Paul, and then you have campaign coming off the bench, and each one more who's a knockdown shooter. Langston Galloway, who is young as well, youngish at 29 years old. Chuck Diallo at 24 at power forward, and I just don't understand why you get rid of D Book at this point in the career. So I in his career, because you can definitely push for the Suns making a run at a mid-level seed in the West Conference if they if they keep Booker and build around him. It's just if they do it the right way, you don't need an Ayton. You need a mid-level center, like I mean, shit. Look what the Lakers did with fucking JaVale McGee. Look what the fucking Warriors did with JaVale McGee, and he sucked. He was consistently on what's Shaq's show, Shaq'd and a Fool, right? He was consistently on Shaq'd and a Fool. Guess what? He has 2 championship rings. You don't need a center. It's been proven you don't need a center. So why?
I think in that system with Paul and Booker, a guy like Ayton works perfectly along those two.
Why?
I don't think you move.
He hasn't proven it. He has not proven it, and he's had the chances too. He's been an idiot.
I mean, he's still really young and just starting his career. And with a guy like Chris Paul,
he's only 22, but he's a big center. He doesn't stretch the floor. So
I can agree with that. But
at this point in the NBA, what do you need from a center? You need somebody who is not only going to play a big position but stretch the floor, which is why the Lakers or anybody else, which is why like a Montrezl Harrell is delegated to a second unit in being a 6th man of the year because he's an energy guy and only plays the boards because he's a typical center, not stretching the floor.
But even if you do all the things you say, are they still contenders?
The answer is
no.
Not necessarily, no, anyway. Because they're not necessarily a huge market. They can't bring in that. So, I mean, at best, they're going to be a 6 seed.
Right. So my point is, if they're not true contenders, even if they do all the right things that you say they should do, they're not true contenders.
They can't get past that. They can't get past it. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Booker's forcing his way up no matter what.
Yeah.
So trade, get the draft picks, and hope you get hit on a couple of them in the next couple of years, and build. You got to build naturally if you're the Suns, because you're not getting big name free agents. You're just not, unless you get another Chris Paul who's got over $41 million near the end of his career. Those are the only big names you're going to get with Devin Booker. And Devin Booker knows that. He's a smart guy. He knows the NBA. And he already has indicated a couple of times he wants out. I think that Chris Paul was a Band-Aid. The Band-Aid to keep Devin Booker. It's not the permanent solution. And I don't think there is one. I think he's gone no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we're all along similar pages there.
Yeah, I was gonna agree. That's exactly what I was gonna say. CP3 is definitely like a Band-Aid, quick fix. But it's a really good, it's a solid fix. I mean, coming from where the Suns were, I mean, when was the last time they were in the playoffs? When Nash was there. So we're looking like almost a decade plus since they've had some type of winning, and just not even just being over 500 at least. So I think the X factor is Ayton. If Ayton's able to play, if he's able to improve and play like a top 5, top 6, top 7 center, that could be enticing enough maybe for Booker to be like, okay, I got a guy next to me that we could possibly do some things, because we talked about the wing big combo, and that's been that's very common when you want to win a championship. We've seen that. Look at Shaq and Kobe. You look at other duos where you need a wing and a big and a versatile big. And if Ayton can continue to play well, I think he's a really good big coming out of Arizona. Everybody's going to say Luka should have went number 1 now after seeing him. But when he came out of Arizona, he was really good. He's still highly skilled. I think he can improve. I think he can improve a little bit from. I think he can improve a little bit with his being a better rim protector, being a better two-way player. But I think right now, it was a good move. It was a good move to get Chris Paul, get a guy like Jay Crowder, who was just in the finals, a savvy vet, able to make some plays, a 3-and-D guy, knock down some shots. I think I like the Suns. Monty Williams, I have him as a one of my Coach of the Year candidates. Coming from just what they did in the bubble, it looks like those guys really rally around him. Mikal Bridges is going to be another key X factor as well. Guy from Villanova. He's expanded his game. He really played well in the bubble. He really stepped up. was able to knock down shots, be able to create his own shot as well. That's something that I haven't seen from him in years past. So they could be able to make some moves, maybe down the road. But I think right now, James Jones and that front office, they just want to at least show Booker that we're trying, and we're not just going to sit here and lay down every single year while you put up 26-7 and you're 20-62 every single year. So I think this was a good move for them. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been bad in Phoenix, but I think it's a good move, and I agree. I think you have they're homegrown, so you're gonna have to be able to have those guys in the draft and develop them, and that's what they've done so far. Ayton is still young. I think they're maybe in that 6 to 8 range, and honestly, in the West, outside of going up against the Lakers, anything can happen in those rounds. Depending on who they match up against, they could they can win in the first round, maybe have a potential a solid playoff run. It's just about matchups. So they could go up against the Clippers and have a solid series and beat the Clippers, and I think any of those other teams is fair game outside of the Lakers. So we'll see what happens with them down the road. Again, like I said, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, that's a really good backcourt. I like that backcourt. Chris Paul went from James Harden to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and now Devin Booker. So very, very blessed. Sucks he started to get better players towards the end of his career, but I like yeah, it's sad, but I like Phoenix, and I think they're going to be pretty solid this year.
I have some breaking news that I would like to add in. Just some breaking news.
Yes, sir.
The Los Angeles Lakers have defeated the Los Angeles Clippers in our first preseason game. The Clippers got their butts kicked by Taylor Horton Tucker. So I just want to throw that in there, and for no reason, just to add it in there. So rest in peace to the Clippers. All right.
Oh, and I think Alex, he made a point. He was like, are you able to win in the NBA today still with a big man? Yeah, right. Our centers are becoming less important to championship teams. It depends. You have to have a special big like Embiid, like Cat, like Jokic. Jokic. Those type of guys. If Ayton could become one of those guys with Booker, then they could have something special in Phoenix. But most of the bigs we've seen are rim runners, be able to protect the rim. If you have one of those special guys, which obviously Phoenix is banking on, it could be possible. But now it's really just it's really a forward league. People say it's a guard league, but to me it's a forward league. You look at the Finals MVPs the last 10 years. Go LeBron, however many times going to the Finals. Kawhi, KD. Those are the guys that you need in order to win multiple championships. We've seen it for so many years. Back in the day, it was a big era, but now it's more of a versatile forward era.
I'm with you, CJ. I don't think that it'll ever go back to the strictly like low post, like running the ball through the low post all the time, big man type era like that. But I do think that the Lakers did show that big men are still valuable in the league. I think that we were at a point with the Warriors for several years where we began to think, well, we don't need centers at all because we can have a 6'8", 6'9" Draymond and that's fine. And I think that kind of took off in the league, this idea, well, we don't need centers anymore. But I think the Lakers ran two bigs a lot last year. I mean, that they that allowed them to let AD play out mid range a little bit more and stuff like that. But I do think that while we'll never go back strictly to like feeding the ball in the post, every trip down the floor, I do think that big men are now valuable again. And I think that you saw that in free agency. There were a lot more teams that were a little bit they were more eager to get big men because they saw what the Lakers did with and guys, nobody thinks that JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard are stars in this league. But the Lakers showed that they could be useful as an extra rim protector on the floor. So while Alex asked a really good question, centers becoming less important, I actually think the value of centers is higher today than it was 2 years ago.
I completely agree with you. Andrew. I think they're very valuable. I think these big guys are a lot more valuable than they were in the past because they are doing more little things nowadays than they were doing in terms of dominating the game. And when they were back dominating the game, you didn't have to focus on them as much because you knew they were going to do what they were going to do, right? You knew Shaq was going to do what he was going to do. You knew KG was going to do what he was going to do. You knew Dirk was going to do what he was going to do, no matter if they're centers or power forwards. You know these guys were going to do what they were going to do, right? And it started changing like slowly, and it slowly started changing. I mean, you started seeing the transformation when it came to like the Chris Bosh types, the guys who started to stretch the floors, maybe stretch out to get the threes. Chris Bosh was the ultimate guy to be able to do that. Nobody that I knew as a four up until Chris Bosh started shooting threes. Like, I mean, maybe you can say that, Dirk started shooting threes, but it was still, a solid step back too, or a solid fadeaway two for Dirk. So, like, ultimately for me, it was watching Chris Bosh step back from the four position and be able to take 3-point shots and make them on a regular basis that it started to transform the game. And then it became more of a everybody can do that, front to five. And then, for the Warriors and Draymond's playing your five. And then you got to play another big to be able to, handle the wingspan of having that area to be able to cover somebody who can shoot that. And so I think the bigs are coming back into play now based off of defense and being able to move and shuffle their feet. And it's not more of an offensive game in terms of having a big. It's more of a defensive game in terms of having a big who can switch on and off from different defenders. And that's where it's coming into my perspective. And you don't need a Dwight to dominate down on the floor. You need a Dwight to be able to contest a shot after switching onto a shooting guard or somebody who's going to make a shot, especially when it comes to somebody like the Lakers. If you have a Dwight covering like a Caruso that's with a KCP, who are you going to cover? You're not going to cover anybody. You're going to stay in space until you have, a switch off, and then you have to be able to come out and put your hand up. And that's where the length comes into a factor. And that's where I'm saying that the defensive, length comes into play when it comes into a center role. You got to be able to play not only on the offensive end. Well, the offensive end is important, don't get me wrong, in terms of rebounds and, putting the ball into the bucket. But defensively, I think it's a huge aspect in terms of this, entirety of the NBA and how it's played today.
I really go ahead, Alec. Go ahead.
No, you go, Amber. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, because I'm a transition, so you go. You go.
I was just going to say something real quick about the bigs. The one thing that it doesn't annoy me, but it's only ever been special bigs that ever win championships, right? We're talking about Shaq's. We're talking about Hakeem. We're talking about Kareem. Like, it's only been
if you look at it,
special
Alec,
bigs that win.
how many bigs do the Lakers have that are already probably championship caliber players that could be fives? You have at least 3 on the Lakers this past year, in AD, in JaVale, and in Dwight. So like, where do you go from there?
Right, no, but I'm just talking about building a team around the big.
You can't do that.
Like,
you can't do that anymore. I'm sorry.
Right.
You guys don't think you could build around Embiid and
no. So sorry, CJ. Go ahead.
About the Joker.
No, go ahead. No,
what I was saying is you can do it, but in order to be championship caliber, they have to be special. They have to, and you have to build it right around 3-point shooters. And the big has to be able to. It's not like before when a big could just you're not throwing it. You're right, Caleb. You're not throwing it into the post anymore. The big has to be able to step out and shoot. If you're talking about just a post up big, no, you can't build around just a post up big anymore.
The only if you were, God, and I said this earlier, is if you put Giannis at the 5. That is the only person you could ever build around that's a legitimate 5, which I ultimately believe that Giannis is a legitimate 5 that could do everything, that you could ultimately build around And that's the only legitimate player that I believe ultimately in my heart that you could say is a 5, that you could build every single thing around him and be successful.
I think you could do that with Jokic, with his passing
As
ability.
the Joker, yeah.
I think you could do
Maybe.
it. I mean,
I-
you still
Maybe.
I
need
would
a
also
wing.
make the
You
I would
still
also
need a
make
wing.
the argument for Embiid too, but
Yes,
that's an hour long argument that we don't need to get into
No,
right now.
no, dude, that'll take 2 hours.
That's why I mentioned those.
Hours,
That's why I mentioned
Alec.
those 3 guys. Right. That's why I mentioned those 3 guys because
Guys.
they're versatile. All 3 of those guys could score
Well, I
on
mean,
all 3
who
levels.
do you put as your top 3 right now? Just off the bat, like off the head. Who do you put as your top 3 centers that you could be able to put around that would be able to build a team to be successful and make the playoffs and be a successful team in the playoffs as a center? I ultimately put Giannis as 1 because I think he ultimately needs to be a center.
Okay.
I think you put Embiid as 2.
Okay.
And I think you put Jokic at 3.
I would have Anthony Davis. I could build around Anthony Davis.
As a 3 or as a 5?
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame that. But
I don't know. He's to me he's a 4. So you guys don't think you can build around Cat?
top three, Amber. Top 3, Amber.
Top 3.
Oh,
Amber, top 3. That was your 1.
that was my 1. The Joker and Embiid.
I personally can't call Giannis a true 5. He's a positionless player in my eyes. Even if they start him at the 5, he's still playing. He's playing some point. There's no way around it.
He's going to bring the ball up too.
Right,
I can understand that.
Right. So for me, it would have to be, and it's my bias, but I honestly do believe Embiid's 1, Jokic 2, and then AD 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with. I mean, I would throw Cat in there. I mean, he's just on the Timberwolves, so.
Yeah, but Cat has a problem of going up against other dominant bigs. Like he gets destroyed by Embiid.
Well, yeah, that's what. Yeah,
like destroyed. It's actually I look forward to those 2 games a year because it's so fun to watch.
It's really interesting to see how the game is evolving. Every couple of years, you see like the game just evolve into something else that you never thought could possibly happen. And I really, 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 really like that. Before we move on to the next team, we're going to answer this question from Alex. How successful would you think Shaq would be in this era?
did the same thing that he was doing in the 2000s and the 90s. It's too big. It's too big. I mean, he's probably the only exception to me where he could put it back to the basket and do this. It's like Giannis, but minus the speed and everything because he's not good on the free throw line.
Alec, you go ahead.
If he's on the same Lakers team, yeah, it's the same thing. They're winning 3 championships. It's no, but if it's just Shaq, it depends on the team. But if it's just Shaq and a bunch of scrubs, of course not. But if he's on the Lakers team, then yeah, he still wins 3. He's dominant because that's the perfect team to build around Shaq.
Yeah,
run that triangle offense.
Yeah,
Which, getting back to the Suns, is I think what the Suns are going for. Sorry, go ahead, Caleb.
No, I mean you're completely right. It all depends on what team he's playing for. I don't blame you for taking that stance at all. But ultimately, I'm just automatically throwing him into that same Lakers team, and it's just dominant. It's Giannis without the passing ability. Without. I mean, he still passed. But he passed to Kobe, so it wasn't. So like it wasn't like he was passing to like a DiVincenzo or like or a Wesley.
Hey, don't hate on my Nova Bull.
I'm not trying to, but the difference between passing to a Lopez or a DiVincenzo or. You know what I'm talking about? In between passing to a Kobe,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, even then, if he has these players around him, I don't see it being a problem. I still rank him high as hell because he's just an animal down on the block, and you can't stop him. I mean, look at when Shaq was back in Orlando. He could get a rebound and go from end to end and and still dunk on everybody.
Except for Hakeem, but yes.
Yes, but that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing back in Orlando. That's what Shaq was doing, dude. He was taking a rebound and going from one end to the other and just slamming on people, and it wasn't even fair. And that's why the Lakers decided to take him from Orlando, because Orlando needed money.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna talk about this team. I'm sorry Andrew had to leave,
Oh no!
but we're transitioning to the Lake Show. Oh boy,
I'm
Frank
signing
Vogel.
off. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Frank Vogel another season with AD and LeBron. We know about the key offseason acquisitions they've made. They stole my guy from the Thunder, Dennis Schroeder. They stole Montrezl Harrell, which was so very surprising, from the Clippers. And
I'm not gonna stop. I'm sorry.
they signed Dwight, but didn't sign Dwight, and Dwight signed in Philly. Sorry, Alec. And Dwight signed in Philly.
It's a good pickup, man.
So yeah, it is a good pickup. But Dwight said, "I'm signing with the Lakers."
Hey, Alex said, I'm sorry. She said, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sorry that I'm not a big Dwight Howard fan. I've never been. And I'm just vocal about this. I think when you don't want to learn from the best, when he was younger, he refused to do footwork with Akeem Olajuwon. Do you know how great Dwight Howard would have been if he would have just taken Akeem up on his offer? Do you know how many NBA players?
Greater. Let's say greater, because he was still great.
He was still really good though.
He was the most dominant center in the league for,
it was
3 to 5 years.
It was just up here, like you said. Like, it was really up here for him, and that's why it didn't work out the first time with Kobe.
I give you that. I give you that.
But I just think I will always stand on this. I just always thought Dwight Howard was overrated. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like I said, I'm sorry, Alex. But I like
Alex is all over you. Alex is all over you in the comments, girl.
I love
pretty bad injury. Yeah, then he had a glute problem. Yeah.
I love Young Dwight. Young Dwight's one of my favorite players of all time, to be honest. Magic Dwight.
He was young Shaq.
Yeah, Magic Dwight was
Don't
an
you say that? Did you just say he was young Shaq?
No, for a matter of fact, he was a young Shaq when he was with
Right, he just never developed like Shaq did.
Never developed like Shaq, but he was young Shaq.
And it didn't help that he had a Van Gundy coaching him, who thought Hedo Turkoglu should have the ball in his hands all times.
Hedo Turkoglu was eating large pepperoni pieces before games and knocking down shots. Don't you do that to Hedo Turkoglu.
Yeah, don't do that to Turk. Don't do that to Turk.
I like what they did, but anyway, we're going back to the Lakers, guys.
Alex, if you don't start judging me on live comments, and
Hey, this is a safe space, Alex. A safe space. How do you feel about the Lakers? A lot of people have them repeating this year. A lot of people think they're going to three-peat. How do we feel about the Lakers?
I mean, I'll since Caleb's holding, I was waiting for Caleb to go, but I'll jump in.
Are you waiting for me to go? I want to go last.
Okay, all right, let's let you go last. I think the Lakers walk through the Western Conference. To be honest with you, I think they have very little resistance. And if we're honest, just like they did this year, they only got better. And I hate saying this because I'm not a Lakers fan. I love watching LeBron play, but I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. But to be honest with you, they only added more talent. I mean, Wesley Matthews was a great pickup. Schroeder was a great pickup. Keeper Morris was great. Everything they did was right. They did everything right. LeBron's out there playing GM, calling people up saying, "Don't you want to win a championship? Don't you really want to win a championship? Because I'll give you a championship." And I honestly think that they're going to walk
quick and say, yes, Alex, I can't wait for Connie to pay up for my fucking bet for back-to-back.
I don't know about back-to-back. I'm interested in how the East plays out. for, of course, what the Sixers look like, but more likely what the Nets look like and what some of these other teams in the East look like. Because I think the championship could be much harder for them this year. Winning the
who do you think
championship
gives them, based off of what you've seen so far in the Lakers pickups, who do you think gives them the toughest opposition to the Lakers repeating again this year?
Any team as long as
Jesus Christ, Alex.
Yeah, Alex, chill, bro. Chill,
Alex
bro.
smiling in the comments. Alex,
Chill, bro.
to answer your question, I'd love to say the Sixers because I love Embiid versus Davis.
I think they probably might have the best chance because they have really put together a solid team.
Right, and Joel Embiid notoriously torches Anthony Davis and puts him in foul trouble. He always has.
That's what I got Marcus Gasol.
I would say that's true. That is why they got Marcus Gasol, because I think they were worried about facing the Sixers in the finals and facing that monster and Joel Embiid going, let's just get the only guy in the league that can guard him, right? But that being said, any team with KD, even though I know he's coming back from an injury, if he's even 90%, he's still scoring 35 points off of, how many little shots. He's one of the most efficient players. And to be honest, if he's 80%, KD could easily transform into the best catch and shoot player of all time if he wanted to, because he doesn't need he doesn't need that much space because of how long he is. That being said, getting back to the Lakers, I don't see a team in the West, and it's saying something because the West is so good.
There's one.
I'm gonna try to guess who you think. It's not the Nuggets, is it?
It absolutely is the Nuggets.
I think the Nuggets will give the most resistance to the Lakers, but I still don't think it. Maybe they won 2 games in the playoffs.
I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough, but I think it's the one team just because of where Murray is coming into his own right now and becoming a absolutely beyond an all-star. He's becoming a superstar in my opinion. And then
Michael Porter Jr.
And then on top of that, Michael Porter Jr. is also excelling right now. And then you also have the size over the Lakers right now at center position, unless you roll 80 to the 5. But that's not always going to work.
And Joker can't play defense.
Right. And I think that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be a problem for the Lakers because you can't roll the size out there with Dwight again now because Marcus Gasol is not going to be able to do that, and neither is Montrez. So you're going to have to end up rolling AD back out there, but who are you rolling back out there at the 4? And that's going to be a question because I don't know if Trez or Gasol have been able to play that position at the 4, and I don't know who else will play that other than LeBron.
I think
what I have a problem with.
I think Gasol could make it. He can't guard Jokic, but he's a decent body to make it difficult for Jokic.
I mean, I ultimately think they win that, but that's the toughest. Other than I think that's the toughest thing for them to go through out of anybody, not only the East or the West. I think the hardest person or the hardest team for them to go through is going to be the Nuggets.
I would like that if they kept Grant. I would like that.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets would beat them if they had Grant. But
I think they honestly go small. I think they would put Trez in there and say Trez on offense. You just stay down low for offensive rebounds
and just dare them to play fast.
Correct. I think that's how they beat the. And again, I think maybe they win 2 games. I don't think it's even. You're right. In the West, I agree. They're absolutely the only team that will offer.
But that's what scares me is because we always think of Jokic in the early season to be, not enough, and then at the end of the season, he always just shows up and just balls out. And
but he can't play. He can't play no defense.
He can, dude. He plays like it. He plays like he stayed with AD all series long. Like
he can't jump and save his life. Oh my goodness.
He can't, but he proved himself. Like he proved himself that he can do that. Like from the get, not from the get. I mean, he
got a better shoot.
from the get he sucked, but like like at the end of the season when he had like it on the line, he proved it. But like that's the problem. Is he going to be able to do that all season long and prove himself that he's an even better player than he does from the start? And that's where it kind of comes down to, for me, that the Lakers win it again. So that's like my only problem is if, the Nuggets get it together. That scares me. If the Nuggets get it together, I'm scary. I'm scared.
I think it takes a year or two until the Nuggets really, because again, Porter Jr. is still young, Bo still young.
But bro, have you seen his videos? He's knocking down fade threes.
His upside is
It's
crazy.
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, but can his body withstand an NBA season?
Yeah, he's gonna have to get stronger. That's why I say a couple years for the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
I think LeBron and AD, they're still gonna hold it down. It's just too formidable, too versatile, and then you get better after winning the championship. You rarely see that, So Wesley Matthews is a really good pickup. Can knock down shots. One of the best 3-point shooters from the corner. And then the last decade, it was a chart I had saw of like all the guys in their zones over the last decade, and Wesley Matthews was there. A lot of people, that's a dream for LeBron. So as soon as he, drives to the basket and they collapse, you got a guy like Wesley Matthews able to knock down that shot. Better shooter than Avery Bradley, even though Bradley did improve over the last few years. So it was a loss losing Bradley, but I think getting Matthews was a solid pickup. Getting Morris, getting Keith, where they could have been able to. Keith could have left and got more money, but stayed for the mid-level exception again. So that's
better than DG.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Alex is something else.
Alex, are you home or are you driving, bro? Like,
Alex, how many shots have you had already, Alex?
Be safe out there, Alex. All right.
Alex. But I like the Lakers to repeat. And that's weird me saying that. It's very odd me saying that. I don't know who's going to beat them in a 7-game series in the West. And I don't know who's going to beat them in a 7-game series in the East. I just cannot picture it and see it. Now, my East pick is the Nets, but I want to see how that's going to work. I want to see how that's
really shocked.
Yeah,
I think Brooklyn and Philly, because Philly they have some versatile wings and Thibault and Tobias Harris if locked in. They got some guys that if connected, they could really play well. And Simmons, if he continues to stay healthy, they can stay healthy. That's really the thing for Philly.
And what everybody forgets about is Ben Simmons' defense versus the Lakers would be a huge part of that championship series.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Amber, who do you see being the problem for the Lakers in terms of what they have in roster look? Because I like the only weakness that I see is that center position in terms of height. So that's why I put Jokic in that conversation. So I don't know, what do you see like being able to come? Well, that can go out to all of y'all. Like, who do you be able to see to combat this Lakers lineup? I mean, you got Alex. Well, let me just read it from top to bottom in Lakers roster.
Okay.
Kostas, Devontae Kakog, KCP, Alex Caruso, Quinn Cook, AD, Jared Dudley, Mark Gasol, Montrezl Harrell. What?
Jared Dudley. He's just a fake tough guy. And
it doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter. He's locker room. Shut up.
He's a horrible locker room guy. Sorry.
No, he's a great locker room guy. He's a great locker room guy.
I want to laugh at Jared Dudley. I'm sorry. I understand.
He's still on the roster, damn it. Okay, Marcus Shaw, Montrezl Harrell, THG, LBJ, Kyle Kuzma, Wesley Matthews, McKinney, Markieff, Schroeder, Xavier Simpson, who is their newest draft pick out of Michigan at guard, and J.R. Smith still on the roster.
J.R. Smith still on the roster. Wow.
Yeah.
What happened to Deion Waiters? What happened to Deion Waiters?
He's
on the street.
Yeah, he's eating gummies. He's eating gummies. He definitely does. He is a big three.
I don't know.
I love Dudley. I love
You know what I'm
Duds.
gonna say?
I
You know what I'm
love
gonna say,
Duds.
guys?
Why does everybody hate Duds? I love Duds.
There's nothing wrong with Jared Dudley. I just wanted to laugh at. I mean, because Jared Dudley used to hoop back in the day. Like
I
Jared Dudley
love
was
Duds,
getting
bro. Duds is
buckets.
my guy.
Well,
That's
you
your
rem-
guy. It's your
You
guy.
remember? Do you remember in the Sixers net series when he almost got the shit kicked out of him by the entire Sixers roster, and
I like three dudes.
yeah, no one on the Nets team backed him up at all.
Everybody was like, "What the fuck are you
and,
doing?"
and he was looking for people. He came up and cheap shot Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons turned around and was like, "I will murder you. What are you doing?"
Nice guy, dude. He's just such a nice dude. He's just a guy.
I'll throw this team out there.
He's like all of us on an NBA team. He's just such a great person.
I'll throw this team out there because I'm watching them right now. I like Portland for some reason. I don't know why I like Portland.
You like against this team?
Let me look at it.
Against this team, man. Against his team. Oh,
Nurkic can't guard AD.
Nurkic can't guard AD.
And neither can
Cantor. They have the length. They have the depth too in Portland now.
No,
I like Portland. Just
Nurk is gonna get worked by AD if you put him at the 5.
Yeah.
Also, the biggest issue with Portland is their depth can never stay healthy.
No, well, even if you put Mark at the 5 in that game, Mark is gonna beat the shit out of Portland with off ball and just pass the shit off of Portland.
I just like Portland. I have them as a top 4 seed, but I'm watching them right now.
I mean, you got Dane pulling up from fucking mid range or from logo, like
it's crazy.
I like Portland, but the only team that I really see could give the Lakers, oh goodness, if the Mavs were healthy, maybe they can give them a good series. If the Mavs were healthy, now KP's not healthy, so it's like darn, like dang it. You know what I mean? Because
I just feel like he'll never be healthy. Like, when is he going to be
healthy? The unicorn.
If he was healthy though, like all season, he would give the Lakers problems.
That would be my matchup that I would look at and say, okay, on paper, you just look at it. Go ahead, Alec.
You don't think so, Alec?
KP, even if he was healthy, he's soft as baby shit. The guy's he's Porzingis even when healthy is just he's a flashy player, sure. I've never been the biggest supporter of KP. I've never been a huge fan of him. I think his defense has been vastly overrated because he gets fancy blocks on guards. That's what he does. He blocks guards on defense. Great. He's 7'1". He should block guards on defense.
He blocks Quinn Cook.
Yeah, great. Awesome. You block Quinn Cook. If you're 7'1", you should block Quinn Cook. It doesn't matter how good you are.
So you don't like KP?
No, KP? I think he's a good offensive talent.
Yeah.
I think he's a good offensive talent, but I just don't think he can do anything on the defensive end of the floor. Period.
I'm right there with Alec. I can't. I am right there with Alec. There's no way KP can be the difference maker in a game.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. I have a question. Let's just say, I'm gonna throw this out here. Caleb, don't get mad at me, but I'm gonna throw it out here.
I'm gonna put myself on mute so I don't, make a scene.
It's okay. This is a safe space. What if the Clippers got it together? What if the Clippers said, okay, they got it together? I'm just throwing this out there. With the talent that they have, what if they got it together? What do you think?
If Kawhi Leonard shows up to practice on time and says, you know what, I got a chip on my shoulder again, which is very unlikely considering Palmer has given him, free reins.
It should be likely after how they folded last year.
Yeah, but I just don't. I hope I'm wrong because I want to see the Clippers and Lakers go at each other's throats.
If you give me a quarter of his fucking salary, I will show up on practice on time. I swear to God.
I would do it for less than a quarter. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Give me $100,000. I'll go. Give me
And I
give
get
me
to play
$80,000. I'll go.
And I get to play basketball. I get the massages. I get commercials where I have to talk. What? The billboards.
Get to hang out with Palmer. He's a super cool guy.
Give me a house in Hollywood and $100,000, and that's all I ask for.
To answer your question, Amber, if they somehow, if it, let's just say hypothetical, it works this year.
Mhm.
Everything works. I still don't think they're good enough to beat the Lakers. They don't have the size anymore. They lost Montrezl Harrell, which was a huge loss for them, no matter if it works or not. Lou Williams is another year older and still throwing up shots left and right, and it is
He's still going to Magic City.
right. He's the streakiest shooter in the NBA. So, I mean, he could have a 50% shooting night followed by 21% shooting nights.
That's true.
So I even if it does work, unless they make moves mid-season, which I think they're going to try to do, even if it does work, I still don't think they're good enough.
I'll ask this too. I think I'll make a couple points. I'll say, what do you guys think about Schroeder starting? Think he should be a starter? Think the lineup should be Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD, and Gasol, and then have Caruso be the backup one. I think Caruso's improved. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. What he does defensively.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, CJ. I personally would like Caruso to start. Just because I don't want Schroeder to lose his shooting touch. Because if you remember, before Schroeder became, the sixth man of the year or whatever, he didn't shoot very well from three. And that's the one thing I don't want him to lose if he does become the starting point guard of the Lakers. And that's what worries me in terms of making him the starting point guard. And I think ultimately, Caruso has, earned his way up to that point. I mean, why not give the guy who has worked his way, like given his all to be able to be in that position, not only be in that position, but, proven it. In my opinion, in the playoffs, in the finals, he has done everything he has needed to do to earn that position to be the starting point guard for the Lakers next to LeBron James. And he's not even going to be the point guard because LeBron runs point either way. It doesn't matter what position he plays. So you put Caruso at the two ultimately, right? You put him at the two. I am. I absolutely am. Fucking works out with me day in, day out. My guy.
That's my guy.
My guy. Works for me. From Texas A&M. He's an Aggie. Okay? I'm kidding. No. Caruso doesn't work out with me. But I'm a Caruso stan. I love the guy.
Mhm.
Great guy. Okay? In my opinion, he's deserved this starting spot. Schroeder also deserves this starting spot. Okay? So it's going to be a battle. So CJ, that's a hard question, for me to answer because they both deserve it. One has worked for it, one has also worked for it. One is more offense, one is more defense. And it's hard to say who is deserving more of that spot. And that's kind of where preseason not only does that, but, these beginning games of the season, kind of, work that out. Girl, I don't even have my hair out right now. Okay. My hair's not even out. Quit. Tired of this. So yeah, it's just, you kind of got to figure it out early on in the season, and I'm not sure you're going to have a complete answer. If I were to ultimately go off of what I think is that you would still keep, Schroeder in that six-man position next to
Kuzma.
Well, not only Kuzma. Well, I mean, Jesus, I didn't even think of that. So if you Schroeder next to Kuzma and next to
Morris.
no, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
And,
Harold, Montrezl Harrell.
yeah. You keep you keep the guys who go 1 and 2 in the 6th man of the year
Right.
only together, and then you keep on that Morris and Kuzma, like you guys were just saying. Good God.
Yeah, man.
That's another starting. That's a starting unit for like the Knicks. I'm sorry, but that's a starting.
Very good, bro.
I would say that they're gonna Schroeder and Caruso will probably switch on and off depending upon who they're playing starting.
Right, I agree with that because you could go more defensive or more offensive depending on who you're playing.
Right, like if they're playing the Mavs, they might start Caruso. If they're stuff like that. Where I think the one question I have is Kuzma on this team come trade deadline. I think they're going to try to move him. I mean, they don't need him anymore, and he's got value.
I think they will try to move him, but I don't think they do, just based off of the pure ability to score because he can score. He is learned not to just only shoot a 3, but cut. When Kuzma cuts, he is extremely lethal as a basketball player. Even when he does cut, players fall for the cut, and they fall for the cut, and then he backs out of the cut, and he immediately just puts defenders on their ass because he makes them. He honestly makes them look silly because he makes them think that they're going to cut or makes them think that he's going to cut, and then he pulls back. So if he can start hitting that shot where he pulls back after that cut, then he can be a very lethal second man as a scorer on that second squad. So I'm not giving up on Kuz. I know he's older, but I'm not giving up on Kuz because he's still got it and he's still learning. And the fact that I still see him learning in the process of what he is doing does not give me reason to give up on him. And I think the positions that they are surrounding him with is going to make it more of a second team instead of Kuzma. Do this.
Yeah, I can see that. I just also think that, they don't need him to win a championship, and he has value, and as the season plays out, they're going to find, maybe they need an actual 2-guard. Like maybe they need a real 2-guard, and they can go out and trade Kuzma to a team who I don't know why they would need Kuzma over a 2, but go out and trade Kuzma to.
He's a very solid guy between a 2 and a 3.
Right, and he's still got talent, and he's a little older, but he's still young, and he's got tons of talent, and I think his value is still pretty high.
Right, he's older, right? He's so he's like my age. He's like 26, right?
Right, yeah.
Years old.
Yeah, and he's not an old man like I am.
The way he acts, or the way he like portrays himself in terms of on the court or anything like that, it's very young. So, like, you can see that he can still grow. I don't know. That might just be me, but I just view that. I don't know. CJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that point about you saying that he's a great cutter. When he's on the court with LeBron and AD, that's his role. He's able to work off the ball. I think he can still be very valuable. I just think put too much expectations on him. We thought he was going to be that third guy with this team, and he's going to be that like a Bosch type guy, but it just didn't pan out. Yeah, it just didn't pan out. So I agree with Alec to it as well. He could be a guy that could be moved for possibly future assets and a quality player that can really help them. That's more consistent. But he could get moved at the trade deadline if he doesn't step up. He's got off social media for a little bit, and I saw the Puma commercial, so he looks a little motivated to prove some doubters wrong. So
that's what I'm saying. Have you seen his new thing? He looks a little different
with the hairdo.
Alec hates me. Alec, turn your unmute yourself.
Did he get a hair?
That was funny.
Get a new hairdo or something?
Yeah, Kuzma has like what does he have, like what kind of hair does he have now? I was watching the Laker game.
He went blonde again?
I don't know.
Like a fade?
can't even
It's
Like
like a
explain
little
it.
curly fro,
It's like
and
a
it's like a
fade.
brownish
It's like a fade
red.
pro. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Is he rocking the Covington? You mean
I-
the young Covington?
I mean,
Oh
kind,
my gosh.
kind of, but like not really.
Yeah. I think he needs to continue.
Like it's like kind of, but like not really.
Yeah. Kuzma is a different guy. He's like he's just different.
I
And he got
love
rid of
Kuzma.
I do
love
too.
this.
I love Cal Kuzma. He got rid of his social media, and people are like, "Why did he get rid of?" Because he was saying
I think that'll
wild
be. I think that honestly will
things.
be great for him is if he gets rid of his social media. Like personally, I think that'll be great for him.
I just also love him because his off the court stuff that he does is just incredible. He's from Flint, Michigan. He gives back. He gives like everything back to them. He does amazing
Flint.
work there.
That's Flint.
Yeah.
Flint. I love that. I love that too. I love the Flint. I love the Flint Connect. I just wish he wasn't so flamboyant on everything that he does. It's just like, dude, like you can be like certain aspects you're good, but like certain aspects you don't need to put out there. You know, like you just keep to yourself, Coods.
I like Kuz. I really do. But he said he wants to be paid this offseason.
I love Coods.
Yeah, he wants to be paid this offseason. He's voiced that opinion before he got off social media. So we'll see what the Lakers do. We'll see if the Lakers are willing to pay him this
Yeah.
offseason. I think the Lakers are repeating. I just honestly don't see anybody beating them in a 7-game series. I just can't see it. I can't fathom it. I think they will probably win. It depends how many games LeBron and AD play, but even if LeBron and AD don't play every game because they just got done playing, I think they're gonna probably win between 50 and 60 games this season. And I just it's inevitable. I mean, what Rob Pelinka did in this offseason should be.
Please. What LeBron did. LeBron went on a recruiting trip. Can we stop giving Pelinka credit for this? LeBron went on a recruiting trip.
Was Kobe's agent. Why don't you give Pelinka credit? I think Pelinka.
Hey, come on. LeBron's been GM where he's gone for years.
You don't think Pelinka had anything to do with it?
Of course he did. He worked out the contracts. LeBron's not doing contract work. He's just saying, hey, go get me Dennis Schroeder.
But my first hurdle came
you don't think LeBron's like, yeah, I'll Pelinka, I'll give you like $3 million to go get this guy. LeBron has so much money, he's like fucking salary cap. Like he's
that's one of the reasons I'm not a
money. He's like, I will give you $5 million to go over to get this guy.
It's one of the reasons I'm not a LeBron fan is because his open tampering that he's so okay with doing. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
I love basketball because I grew up a LeBron fan. Okay, I didn't start watching basketball. I only started watching basketball because of LeBron because he was so good. Because he was so good, dude. And I was just like, oh my god. And now that I'm like locked in, I'm like, there's so many good players like Damian Lillard. Oh my god! And then I'm like, LeBron, stop fucking with money. Stop it.
He did sign 2 years, 85 mil, right? 2 years, 85 mil.
Yeah, the extension.
Yeah.
And he just keeps doing it, and I'm just like, LeBron, stop.
He's never paid what he's worth. Like none of the NBA players are really paid what they're worth.
Honestly, if you're in that position, what?
Hey, the LeBron LeBron doesn't care because no NBA team could pay him the amount that
exactly what he's worth.
Nike does.
Yeah, I just see the Lakers repeating, and that's just about all I have to say about the Lakers. I just don't see anybody.
Amber, you're skipping a team though.
No. I know. We're talking about Sacramento next. Or last. I know. I have to work my way up to talking about
I'm just
Sacramento.
making sure. I'm just making sure you still know.
I'm here. I'm here, Caleb. I'm here. I'm good.
I'm still on the Lakers though, so the Antetokounmpos.
Man,
But we're gonna switch gears to Sacramento Kings. Thank you, Caleb, for the transition.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We had to talk about the Lakers. We had to do it.
The Lakers repeating.
Lakers are repeating. Yeah, that's just it. And Sacramento, Luke Walton, they lost
God
Bogdanovich.
God bless him.
They drafted 2 point guards in Halliburton and Jamias Ramsey.
He's screwed.
I don't understand their draft. I like Halliburton. I do. You signed De'Aaron Fox. You extend him. I think he got the max. He got max, right? Money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't really get max money.
Yeah. He got max money for him.
Yeah, but he didn't really get max money. Sorry, but
Luke Walton. Do you start Buddy Hill? Do you
I'm gonna mute myself. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, Caleb. We're here for you. Safe space. Do you start Buddy Hill? Do you not start Buddy Hill? What is Luke Walton doing in Sacramento? How long does he have left in Sacramento? What can Sacramento do to get better?
Luke Walton is blowing it in Sacramento. That's what's really happening. He's putting Buddy Hield.
this guy's done.
he's putting Buddy Hield on the bench. I mean, it just doesn't. What he's doing doesn't make any sense. I like Halliburton too. Halliburton too. I like him a lot, but I think they drafted him because they know they're moving on from Buddy Hield. It's the only reason why you would draft a guy like him while having Buddy Hield on your team is because you think you're moving on from Buddy Hield. For whatever reason, Luke Walton doesn't believe in proven products, I guess, which Buddy Hield is.
Why do you draft Halliburton when you got Fox?
Well, Halliburton, he's not just the one, right? He can play the two.
You still got Kyle Guy at the two, Buddy Hield at the two, Justin James at the two.
Well, Kyle Guy's not.
Jeffries at the two.
And they drafted.
And not only that, but you also drafted Mir at the two.
Yeah, they that's why I was saying they just bombed the draft.
Right. They've screwed up. They've royally screwed up. But Buddy Hield's not long for that team. He's leaving, and Halliburton's going to replace him. That's what I think the reason for that pick is. Now, we can go into their other picks. We can go into Kyle Guy if you really want to, but those guys aren't going to play. They're trash, if we're being honest. But the Kings have set themselves back years after 1 year of getting promising talent and building a promising future. They just said, you know what? Never mind. Let's just screw it all up and ruin what we did with De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. So I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what the Kings are doing.
CJ, do you want to go? Because I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Caleb's stuck. It's okay, Caleb.
I am in a pause, like a what do they call it in a video game when you're lagging? That's what I'm doing. I'm lagging.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in they're definitely in a rebuild mode. I think their best bet is hopefully Bagley becomes something. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the only way that they could potentially have look towards the future. For right now, you sign up, you keep Fox for 5 more years. That's a given. You had to do that. I like Halliburton. He's solid off the ball. Even though his shot's a little funky, but he was able to knock down shots in college at 41%. Really good defender. So I think that could be a solid backcourt for them going forward. They're going to move Hield. I think they should maybe try to get a big, maybe potentially in that Buddy Hield trade deal, and then maybe some assets. We'll see who'll be the suitor for that. But I don't think they'll go far because of their head coach. Luke Walton's just not that good to me. Terrible with rotations. Terrible in game management, time management. He's just not, to me, he's not that good. And we saw that in LA, even when they didn't have the type of talent. He just wasn't. Even when they had LeBron, you could see that he just wasn't cut out to be a really good head coach. So, they got rid of Vlade Divac as a GM, which was good because he made some of those terrible moves that Alec just talked about. So, bringing in some fresh blood and the new blood in that front office could potentially change some things, but it's going to take some time.
CJ, isn't he still in the organization though? Like, didn't they not actually fire him?
Yeah.
He's just
like, I think he's still like an advisor. Yeah. I don't know what I forgot the owner's name. I don't know what he's doing, man.
Bro,
I don't know what he's doing, bro. They used to be really good growing up. Early 2000s. When they had
I love that. I grew up watching them. Watching
those guys.
Have you looked at it? Have you looked at this roster, CJ?
It's I mean, it's not. I couldn't even. You couldn't even like rebuild them in 2K. It's just.
Bro,
oh, wow.
You would have to be the last pick in 2K to be able to put together this roster.
Yeah, man.
Like, I swear to God, this is the worst roster you could ever put together as a GM.
Like, I understand Fox, taking the money. I mean, who would? Why would you'd never turn that down? That type of money.
That's money though. That's money though. Yeah. That's money though. You take money.
In terms of success, I think they should have never fired David Yeager that they had when they were the 9th seed.
Bro, this team is so bad.
They should have kept him. They should have kept him.
No, don't keep him. He's on the Sixers.
He's on the Sixers. He's on the Sixers now.
Right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, Amber, are you looking at this roster?
I've seen it. I've
you? What do you think of this roster? You tell me what you think of this roster. I'll tell you what I think first.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let you have the floor.
I'm just gonna name it.
Okay, go ahead.
And that's gonna tell you exactly what I think of this roster. Okay. Draft pick. Robert Woodward II. Shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan Whiteside.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Robinson III.
Mm-hmm.
Jamirius Ramsey, shooting guard. Draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Jabari Parker. Chemezi Metu.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Kaminsky.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Daquan Jeffries. Justin James. Rashawn Holmes. Buddy Hield, most likely to be traded.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Halliburton. Draft pick. Kyle Guy. De'Aaron Fox. Yogi Ferrell. Corey Brewer. Nemanja Bejelinka. Yeah, Bejelinka.
Beja something, yeah.
Bejelinka. Harrison Barnes and Marvin Bagley III.
Luke Walton is head coach.
and Luke Walton as head coach.
Luke Walton and his band of misfit toys.
Tell me that will not be the worst team in the West. That is god awful. I'm looking at this.
They're going to be worse than Thunder.
And I'm like, they're going to be, dude, the Thunder have way more prospects than that.
If they're worse than the Thunder,
I don't think they'll be worse.
The Thunder have way more promise.
Yeah, I
have way more promise than
guys. Listen,
they got some better players. They do have some.
We're going to win some games.
Now they have some better players than the Kings. Horford.
I don't know about our head coach.
Horford sucks.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, he's better. He's better than half these players. So
Horford is trash. He's better than
half. He's better than Horford is better than Horford is better than half of these Kings players. So I don't
He
want
got
to hear it.
$108 million coming off of his worst year ever, and continue to get worse. And he's gonna go. Sorry, Amber. He's gonna go to the Thunder and be worse because he's old, and that's what happens with old players,
You know, Alec,
especially
it doesn't
old
matter.
bigs.
You know what, Alec? It doesn't matter because he's better than half of this roster for the fucking Kings.
I guarantee you that the Thunder will have a better record than Sacramento. That much I can say.
You want to know why I don't agree?
Amber.
You want to know why?
Agree with you.
Amber, you want to know why I don't agree with you? Because
Why?
if they start having a better record than the Kings, they're just going to trade everybody away.
They want that top
We got draft picks.
Okay. I see where Alec was going
Yeah,
with
but
that now.
you already have draft picks. What if you could have more draft picks?
Alec,
It's
Alec,
exactly what Sam Hinkie did. I swear the Thunder have Sam Hinkie locked up in a basement somewhere, and are just asking him what they can do to suck.
But I will say that I'll go on record. I'm on the record, and I'll say the Lakers are going to win a championship, and we know that. And the Thunder will have a better record than Sacramento. I will say that. I will honestly say that.
Let's go.
But
I am so with
game,
you, Amber. I am so with you. I think the Thunder definitely have a better record than the Sacramento Kings.
I mean, because
CJ, who's your team? I heard you laughing back there in the background. Who is your worst team, and who do you see?
Who's the worst team in the West? Let's say that. Who's the worst team in the West?
I mean, those two teams will probably be Kings, OKC. Yeah, they're probably going to be bottom 14 and 15 for sure.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. I agree with Alec. If they start to win some games, they're probably going to get rid of some of those guys so they could get a top pick for Sam Presti.
I could even see them trading Shea Gilgeous, just because he got tons of value.
No.
Clean slate, like.
No,
you're going like clean here. Like
you telling me you can build a team around Shea Gilgeous, Alexander?
No, but I'm not saying you get rid of him.
Why not? He's gone. He's on another year past his rookie deal, and when he gets to the end of his contract, he's just gonna ask for a shit ton of money.
Okay, well, so how much would you give him up for? I need money. I need.
What are Thunder you giving him all in on draft picks. They don't care about players whatsoever.
CJ, what do you ask for CGA or SGA? Sorry.
And
we're not trading him. Next question.
Trading him.
Amber's like, no.
You have to start somewhere.
You know what?
You have to start somewhere. We're not trading him. He's not tradable.
No, but
Sixers fans said that about so many players.
But Amber, if it's an option,
first round pick.
If it's an option, what do you give up for it? Or for him?
Couple firsts.
2?
Maybe. But I don't even think he's.
He doesn't garner 2 first round picks.
I think you give up a first and a player like not Danny Green because he sucks, but like a
Danny Green back.
No, we don't want Danny Green back. Thank you for your service, Danny Green.
How about Gerald Green?
If the Thunder decide to trade SGA, we need another guard back in return because he's the guard. He's our point guard. So you know what I mean? But that's
you're getting a first. You're getting a first back?
I think they're trying to go for every pick in next year's draft class.
Yeah, they don't care about players at all. They showed that.
Clippers.
Start a new team.
Clippers.
We don't want Patrick Beverly.
He's a perfect tank player, though. He's a perfect tank player. He's gonna put up a ton of shots and miss most of them.
She said, I do not want Patrick Beverly.
They don't like him in OKC.
And all the Clippers were trying to do is unload a person. Wait. You're not giving CGA up for that or SGA up for that?
Wait, hold on, Amber. Do you think I wanted Tony Roten? I've been through what you went through.
I understand
What
that.
you are going
So
through.
we don't have to struggle. We're already gonna struggle this year, but we don't have to go through that.
Amber, I have been there. You just gotta embrace the tank. You gotta go up to the tank and give it a
We were
hug.
supposed to tank last year, and look what
And
happened.
realize
We were supposed
that
to
none
tank
of my
last year.
players are safe until I get a first overall pick.
Hey,
Then
hey,
that
Amber,
guy is
Amber,
safe.
Amber, you know what y'all should have done? Y'all know what y'all should have done? Is hung on to Billy D. Billy D was the guy.
He didn't want to go
He
through that.
walked out on his own. He walked out on his own.
He didn't want
Yeah,
to.
they told him they were going into tank mode, and he was like, I'm gone.
He was
I'm
like,
out."
I'm done with that
Just to
shit.
go to
Yeah,
Chicago.
you guys have already screwed me over enough. See ya.
Just to go
He's
to
like, I already
Chicago.
tried to
He did, I
reset
wanted to go to
once.
Chicago. Wow. Okay. Just
Did
to
he
go to
really say
Chicago.
that? Did he really say that?
Well, he
He's
walked
like-
out on his own. He walked out on his own cognizance. Yes, he walked
Are
out
you
on his own.
serious?
Yeah, it was like a Doc Rivers
Why?
scenario where he just left.
We don't know. That's
He
a
was
great
like, I'm
question.
tired of rebuilding, but he goes to another rebuilding franchise.
And we have
He
more
went to a
picks.
team where he probably has more power. The Thunder would never give him personnel power, like any same
But
personnel.
no, he has. Well, yeah, he might have more power in Chicago, but like he has a better chance to win in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Maybe.
Wait,
That's
like 6 years from
CJ.
It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. I mean,
When we get Bronny James in 2020, what?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Look,
saying.
look,
Like,
at-
he's
look,
gonna
at these,
take-
look at these draft picks, bro. Look at these draft picks.
When we get Imani Bates in 2020, what? 2? Don't say anything.
Yeah, you're gonna have Brian James and Monty Bates.
Bates. we're
Chet
straight.
Holmgren.
Right, you're gonna be stacked. You know who you sound like? You sound like I did during the tank years.
Okay, so he's gonna have Bronny James, KD, and Kyrie Irving by the time it's all said and done because everybody's just gonna be old as fuck. Either that or just banned from the fucking league and nobody else wants to have them. So,
on a more serious note, why aren't the Thunder getting trashed the way the Sixers did for tanking?
Because they haven't done stupid shit with their draft picks.
I mean, they got Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. That's pretty good.
Those are 2 home runs right there. Yeah,
but I mean, they're home runs.
That's what they're. I mean, because Presti.
They're home runs they're home runs in terms of draft picks, but they're not home runs in terms of fit.
I think that's still.
That's up in there. Wait for this year.
Yeah, what do you mean it's up in the air? It's been like 6 years.
It won't work. I don't think
it's been like 6 years.
Yeah, but Brett Brown is not even a real coach.
Terrible.
He'll never coach in the NBA ever again.
Oh wow!
How do you make a center?
Wait. Let me just say this about Brett Brown. Brett Brown, because this is what people tend to forget.
I agree with you that
Sixers.
he sucks, but
no. But just wait.
Go ahead, tell me. Go ahead, tell me.
Brett Brown was
See,
brought
I've
in
never had
here-
this conversation with you, so I want to hear it.
Brett Brown was brought in here by Sam Hinkie after Sam Hinkie's first draft. That should have told all Sixers fans right away that Sam Hinkie never thought Brett Brown was going to win. Sam Hinkie brought Brett Brown in here because
he didn't want him to win.
Right, he was a player development coach. So Sam Hinkie brought Brett Brown in here to find gems like Robert Covington, TJ McConnell, and then to fire him when it was winning time. It was just the stupid ownership that allowed the NBA to come in, fire Sam Hinkie, bring in...
Wait. You're saying this is an inside job?
No, the NBA straight up said you have to bring in somebody who's going to try to win.
But it was an inside job.
It was trust in the process. They were having
they pushed Sam Hinkie out.
Well, we all understand that, but it's an inside job.
They kept Brett Brown because they didn't realize that he was here to lose on purpose.
We know that. We all know that. It's just that's why we're all like, the process shit is full of shit. That's why we all think the process shit is full of shit.
Well, gotta
but it's not, because the Sixers failed the second half of the process by allowing Brett Brown to stay. He was never supposed to here to win.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly.
So the process worked. You got 2 legit
The process.
stars.
You're right. The process worked. But
The first part of
did,
it did.
It didn't work.
The first part of it did. Now we're back on track.
Exactly where we thought you guys were gonna be by the end.
Guys,
But I don't know why OKC's getting the flack.
Yeah, I'm
gonna say
sorry, Alec, but like we all thought it was gonna come full circle and come back around to where it's gonna be.
I have no clue. Only time will
Sorry.
tell, though, Alex, because we have all those picks. Only time will tell. So
See, I'm a LeBron fan, so I followed since like 08.
Yeah, people trust Presti because of KD and Harden drafting
But
those
that's
guys.
where I know Presti from is from OKC.
Right. That's why he doesn't get the same type of
That
negative.
makes sense. I didn't think of it that way. That does make sense.
That's why.
Because Sam Hinkie wasn't a proven guy. He came out of nowhere and immediately was
he
like,
fucked
trade
all
Drew
that up.
Holiday, get rid of
Fucked all that
Thad
up,
Young.
Yeah. So
But
that's
they
why.
had to. The Sixers screwed themselves with the Andrew Bynum trade.
Presti effed it all up. That's why I know Presti is he effed all of the Harden, Westbrook, KD, everything in OKC up.
$4 million. He just wanted $4 million. But hey,
$4 million? That was
yep,
it.
It was just $4 million. He didn't want to
He
pay
could have
him $4 million.
he could have got a like 150 mil.
There's no strip clubs in Oklahoma. Well, there's no strip clubs. We have taxes. Taxes aren't high, but Houston, Houston, Oklahoma City. I mean, come on now. Like I'm not mad. I'm not mad at James Harden for the decision he made. I'm not mad at
Your
that.
taxes still ain't 7.5%. Shout out Florida.
It's not, but
yeah,
it was really
Alec.
refreshing.
That's where I get my perception from. So that's why I already have the pre-consumptive, idealistic ideas towards everything.
We'll see, Alec. We'll see, and Caleb. We'll see, and CJ. We'll see. We'll just see. I'll just have to see how it goes. I'm hoping. I already said on record they'll have a better record than the Sacramento Kings. I'm just praying and hoping that we do, and that.
No, I like OKC. OKC's gonna do great. Presti's been awesome ever since.
Yeah, we've been so spoiled with going to the playoffs every year, and now which is kind of like none of the OGs are there. The only OG that's left is Andre Roberson, and we don't know what his status is. And I can't pronounce half the roster.
I love him. He's one of my favorite players, by the way. I love Andre Roberson.
Caleb.
3 and D, lock in.
3? No 3. Just defense.
Whoa.
And even that's suspect at times.
3 when you need it. 3 when you need it.
Sagging off every single time, man.
Okay, we'll wrap this up, guys.
Amber, me and you. It's all me and you, Amber. Next time, it's just gonna be split screen. It's gonna be Alec and CJ versus Amber and Caleb, and it's just
we're gonna have a battle for the ages.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I appreciate.
It's just done for. It's over.
I appreciate you guys for coming on. I really, really do. I appreciate the conversation. Staying up till almost 1 a.m. my time. I have to be up at work. I have to be up in 4 or 5 hours to go to work. But I do this. This is what I do. We're gonna pay some bills. I'm gonna let you guys shout yourselves out, and then we're gonna head out. All right, guys. Check out the store. I got my gear on. Check out the store, teespring.com/stores/unwrapped. Caleb's getting his shirt right now. Get you some gear from the Unwrapped Sports Network. Also, if you want to gamble, mybookie.ag, use the code USN100 to double your first deposit. Also, sore aching muscles, rxhemp.com. Use the code rxhemp/USN and get 10% off of your order. Okay, here we go, guys. Plug yourselves in, and then we'll wrap this up. Who's going first?
CJ.
CJ go first. We'll let Caleb go last.
Gardo Podcast. Catch me on Instagram at GardoPod. On Twitter, CJ_James9. Thank you guys for having me. Second episode.
Yeah, Alec Carr. Find me at Alec TD Carr on Twitter, and Fourth and 26 Sports also on Twitter, and part of Fights Unwrapped. You can watch us every Wednesday night at 6. We put on a fun show.
All right.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. I love each and every one of you guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys for coming on. I know, I could be a bit of a, piece of shit sometimes or a lot sometimes, but follow me down at CHS. No, I'm a big Florida State fan, so that's probably why the way I am that I am. Just comes with the territory. But I'm not in charge of a lot. I do a podcast with my buddy Sam Daring, Saturday Standouts, which is an awesome podcast for college sports. We're getting ready for the NFL draft and everything. Starting to do a lot of mock drafts and all that good stuff. And then Tribaholics, which is a nice FSU pod if you guys enjoy Florida State. But I also enjoy coming on here with all my people here. My first time with Alec. Another one of these times with CJ as well as Amber, and these guys are part of my family, and I enjoy coming on here with him, and I enjoy revving the Unwrapped team and everything like that. So that's what I'm here part of, and that's kind of what I keep my mind geared towards. So if you guys ever get a chance, follow Unwrapped on Twitter as well as YouTube. We just started our new YouTube page, so if you guys go follow us there at Unwrapped Sports, as well as everything else that we do on Twitter and Facebook and everything else. So just a pleasure to get together with you guys, and Alec, it's a pleasure to get together with you for the first time that I have ever had with you. I know you're more a big part of the Fights Unwrapped portion of everything, but it's great to see your insight and everything. And I just want to say thank you to all you guys for being able to contribute to what Unwrapped has to offer and everything like that. And I appreciate every one of your opinions and everything like that. And I just can't thank you enough. And that's where we're at now, is we're just showing love. We're showing love to not only the people that contribute to our network, but also to those of you who watch. So if you guys are here watching with us, we appreciate it so much. Shout out to, Perry for bringing us all together and giving us the platform to be able to do these things and be able to connect with one another and, promote each other. Honestly, at this point, we don't necessarily promote the same things, but at the end of the day, we love each other and we promote each other's work because we care about each other. So, I'm not going to keep rambling on because obviously that's what I'm doing right now. So,
You have your moment.
thank you guys. And I appreciate, Hoops Unwrapped, new branded stuff. And I can't wait to be on for another one. I just wanted to be on here and, shout out my leg show and LBJ. So here we are. And thank you guys.
No problem, Caleb. All right, Caleb said a lot of things. So I hope you guys got all of what Caleb said. You can find me on Twitter at simplyme_AV. Of course, I'm part of the Unwrapped Sports Network. I'm a new director for the NBA department at Hoops USN. And then we have at Unwrapped Sports. You guys follow us on those. It's right down there at the ticker. And then I have Step Back Sisterhood that is on Blue Wire, and then I also have Ladies First, presented by Unwrapped Sports at 7 Central on Thursdays, and I have Thunder Coast to Coast podcast. I do that with Makana and Lori, and we kind of do that randomly. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. You guys staying on with us for almost 4 hours, and we'll see you back here Sunday night at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and 6:30 Pacific.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Amber. Love you.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks, guys.
Guys.